All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday, November 18th City Council meeting. We're obviously here in person in City Hall, and we have our Zoom component as well. We are going to go ahead and start tonight with our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. However, a little bit of a pause this time in between, because when I'm done with the invocation, we're going to bring in a few Girl Scouts. I will introduce them, and then they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll join me for the invocation first. Dear Father, thank you for bringing us here together tonight to work together to do what's best for our community and make the right decisions for our community as a whole. In the spirit of this, I would like to take a moment of silence to recognize the passing of former Mayor Shane Brickner last week. He was a great inspiration to so many people in his community and outside of Liberty Lake as well. We ask that you hold him tight and have him watch over us as well, and impart his wisdom on all of us and the deep feeling he had for everybody in this community in the sense of doing the right thing. I ask that you be with all of us today to help us do the right thing, treat each other with respect, and to lift each other up in the spirit of Shane, that we can all get along and continue to do our city business in the right way. Amen. Amen. All right, so we're gonna bring in a couple Girl Scouts. Yes. Oh, okay, so first we have Aaliyah, Tuesday, and Grace. If you guys want to come up here, you don't have to. I'm not gonna make you like stand in the middle. And our leaders are Lisa and Summer. Summer being an incoming council member, if you guys didn't know that. So the girls are going, and later on we have a proclamation for International Day of the Girl, which is usually in October, and it's usually on my birthday. But schedules and things do not permit in October, so we want to make sure we recognize that day no matter when. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the girls to start the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance of the United States
to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very much. And you guys will be sticking around for the proclamation and we'll get a picture. Thanks. All right, moving on, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order while I try to fix my mic and proceed with the roll call. Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Ball.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
And Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
Okay, no, we have not heard anything from Councilmember Dunn, so we can maybe have a motion to excuse him, and if he comes in later, we will note his arrival.
I'll make the motion to excuse him.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion passes. We are up to agenda approval. Are there any requests for changes to the agenda? Councilmember Kurtz.
Madam Mayor, I had somebody from the community ask if we wouldn't mind moving general business A, B, and C, which are appointments to boards and commissions, up earlier in the agenda. And I would like to ask if the council has any opposition to moving it right before item 8.
Right before item 8. So the motion is to move items 11, A, B, and C, are appointments to after announcements, proclamations, special presentations. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an amended agenda. Are there any other requested changes? Okay, not hearing any.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an amended agenda. Now we're up to citizen comments. We have these white half sheets by the door over on that table. If there's anybody in the chambers who'd like to make a citizen comment, please get your sheet to lovely Rochelle here, our city clerk, and she will get it to me. If we have anybody joining us remotely, if you'd like to make a comment, please send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature, and we'll recognize you after the in-person comments. Rules of engagement, we have 3-minute limit. You can speak on any topic. We just ask that comments remain respectful. It is truly a comment period. There is no back and forth with the council. If we need to follow up, we'll make sure we have we follow up with some contact information. We'll have the proper staff member get back to you. So with that, I'm going to let David go first. He is a staff member, but I'm going to let him go first because I know what he wants to talk about, and it's a testament to our little moment of silence.
David Gaynor, not a resident here except 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and a couple rooms away from here, which is a reason I would not normally take up time for public comment on this. But I wanted to share that I oversee the city's Facebook site. I wanted the council members to know this. I wanted everybody in the room to know this. I hope you share this out with people you know. I would really hope this gets to the family. When I post things on our city's Facebook site, I am really pleased when I see any of our items get 1,000 views. That's kind of my mark. I want to get 1,000 views. In the 3+ years I've been here, we have had, I would guess, somewhere around 10 of our posts get beyond the 25,000 views level on Facebook. And I think somewhere around 6 have eclipsed 30,000 views. Last Thursday, we posted the photo and information about the passing of former Mayor Shane Brickner. It's about 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. And I checked Facebook around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock that night. It had become the first one to pass 40,000 views within those few hours, 43,000 at that point. I can announce today that that post has reached 127,000 views. The reach count on Facebook is, which reach means number of individual viewers or individual Facebook accounts that have seen a Facebook post beyond just the number of times it's been viewed. Number of individual views through the reach, 67,000 people. I never met Shane Brickner. I never interacted with him. I knew who he was. But I think I can guess that this says a lot about the profound positivity this man had, the level of positive interactions he had with people, probably a caring nature, very interactive with people. Again, I hope this information gets to the family. 127,000 views on the city's Facebook site, where our previous record was less than 40,000. This sounds like a guy that if you knew him, I'm guessing you probably want to follow his example. Whatever he did, whatever he said, whatever he did in interacting with people, that's the positive influence I think you want to continue with. Whatever it was that Shane Brickner did to get 127,000 views on Facebook, maybe you can make that your own goal, to be that kind of a person. That's it.
And I want to thank the family for providing the obituary for us and with giving us permission to post that. I know people were asking when it was going to happen, but I want to make sure I had permission from both parts of the family. So thank you for that, David. So next we have Corinne Hunt with a comment on Winter Glow. So welcome.
I'm Corinne Hunt. I live in Liberty Lake. And I just wanted to share my takeaway regarding Winter Glow. In January, Winter Glow informed Mark that we could no longer produce it at Orchard Park due to the size, difficulty getting enough volunteers, fundraising, and burnout of a few members, as are the reasons why Manitou isn't doing theirs this year. We offered you a purchase price for everything we had to set up Orchard Park, and we would help train and supervise volunteers. Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Anyways, and we would help train and supervise volunteers you would get. Your response was, could we have it for free? Then in June, Mark announced at the city council meeting that he had talked to the Winter Glow board and Winter Glow would put on the event for 2025. I was shocked. There was no board meeting. In fact, you never met with us, even with our willingness to do so. I was really angry. I immediately got messages from 2 board members also shocked. They said there was no such meeting or agreement. And so they quit the next day. Rich had told me that he had a phone conversation with Mark that morning and Rich offered things he could do. Rich told me he did not offer the board and did not offer others. Then came the 4-page splash article in July, where it stated no equitable agreement could be made. Again, no face-to-face board meeting. I would have expected something like Winterglow can no longer put on the event due to the size, cost, labor, etc. But we would like to thank Winterglow for the 6 seasons of lights at a cost we deem to be valued at $150,000 a year. My anger continued. I was raised with PACE-like traits such as honesty, respect, integrity, truth, trustworthiness, gratitude, along with consideration and kindness. So this awareness turned my anger towards sadness that these traits were not exhibited to Winterglow. We gifted you an event that you value at $150,000 a year and brought in thousands of people. I believe PACE traits need to be lived out by all people, all ages, especially adults and leaders, as an example to the younger generation. I got my gratitude from hearing and seeing the joy and happiness from the thousands viewing it every day. I have volunteered my whole life. As long as I am blessed with good health and abilities that can benefit others, I will continue. I truly hope you can put on an event that draws thousands of tourists and locals and brings joy, light, and memories for Christmas and the holidays.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have anybody online? No. Okay, and I don't believe we have any written comments that came in this week. Okay, great. And why is my Teams opening? Okay, next up, we have announcements, proclamations, special presentations. So as promised, we will bring our Girl Scouts back in. We have a proclamation for International Day of the Girl. So we'll bring our Girl Scouts back in if you want to, if you just want to stand next to the podium with your leaders and CEO Brian Newberry, welcome. We will read the presentation, then I'll bring it and we'll get a picture with the entire council.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas October 11th, 2025 marks 13 years since the United Nations adopted Resolution 66-170 to declare October 11th as International Day of the Girl, to recognize girls' rights and the unique challenges girls face around the world. And whereas, as the world's premier leadership development organization for girls, Girl Scouts has emphasized public service, civic engagement, and the love of the outdoors in camping girls for over a century. And whereas Girl Scouts in this council adopted to overcome and grow to 4,200 girls last month, the most since 2013, and vowed to continue growing to provide girls optimism and adventure. And whereas Girl Scouts offers girls 21st century programming in science, technology, engineering, and math, the outdoors, entrepreneurship, and beyond, helping girls develop invaluable life skills. And whereas next summer, Girl Scouts will travel to Washington, D.C. to celebrate their national convention and the 250th anniversary celebrating the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Whereas today, on the 13th anniversary of celebrating the specialness of girls, we are reminded that more than 50 million women are Girl Scouts alums as role models to the 1.1 million Girl Scouts, and we recognize and honor the 1.1 billion girls across the globe who made the world a better place.
So now at this time, I'll entertain a motion from the council in support of the proclamation.
Move to support the proclamation.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Kennedy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now therefore, we, the mayor and city council members of the city of Liberty Lake, do hereby proclaim October 11th, 2025 as International Day of the Girl in the city of Liberty Lake, Washington, dated this 18th day of November, 2025. Chris Kaminskis, mayor and proud Girl Scout.
Here we go, just, okay, there you go, sorry. iPhone 17. Got it.
And so shout out, but it's February, it's desserts before dinner, right? March.
Can I just say just a couple of comments?
Oh, it's great.
Thank you, ma'am. There's Girl Scouts out of talent for my Girl Scout mayor out there.
There you go.
And I think my sash is still in my mom's cedar chest, so I'll have to find that.
Well, I come out with a patch every year. I'm Brian. I'm the proud CEO of this Girl Scouts. Liberty Lake, I appreciate you so much. I was former commander out of Fairchild Air Force Base. And you don't just have the name Liberty Lake, you truly bleed patriotism out here. One of my airmen, Captain Pickney, is hanging out there on a poster that we remember her because she passed away in 2013. And I deeply appreciate you, Liberty Lake, for doing that. We brought cookies for the city council. I will just say tonight, two things. One, girls, this is for you. As the mayor said, this is for the Day of the Girl, which is in 11 October. We're actually visiting 16 city councils this year, more than we've ever visited. I like you to be the last one because I think you're all a hurrah. I will say I didn't realize Mayor Jacobson would be leaving us, so we're going to go say goodbye to him in December and thank him for all that he's done in Post Falls. But Mayor Chris, you're an extraordinary leader. City Council, you care about us. You care about my girls. These are extraordinary girls. This council meeting is for you in the sense that they're recognizing the Day of the Girl. And why do we recognize the Day of the Girl? Because we want you to have confidence. So they had a unanimous vote. That doesn't happen in America anymore. There's no unanimous votes. So they unanimously voted that you girls rock. So when you have a moment that you might not be believing yourself, just believe in yourself and know that the city of Liberty Lake stands with you and have confidence because that's what Day of the Girl is all about, is your voice. To you all, I just want to thank you all for all that you do for my girls. We do have a new cookie coming out next year. It's called Explore Moors. We're always happy about that. It's based on Rocky Road ice cream, so that'll be good next year. But you all celebrate our girls, and I say this every year, but this year is really special. You all donated as a community, Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho, 42,000 boxes of cookies to our military. Why that matters? It matters in a lot of reasons, but it tied us for our record of our most ever. And we're actually down in cookie sales. It's not your community's fault. You bought a lot of cookies, but other communities didn't buy as much as they normally do. Economy, all that other kind of stuff. Taxes, we can talk about that later, Mr. Wendell. But they still, in a down year, this community donated as many cookies as they ever have. That's love of country. That's love of the first responders sitting out there. That's love of so many. And those cookies have been everywhere from Guam to Iraq to every place in between, Korea, you name it. Those cookies have been there, and it's certainly been here in Fairchild. We go. So just feel good. And one last feel good story that I'll just leave you with is when we lost a firefighter over in Coeur d'Alene, within 3 days, Girl Scouts across our region delivered cookies to first responders all through Northern Idaho. Over 2,000 boxes delivered over the July 4th holiday. That's your girls making the world a better place. Liberty Lake, you make the world a better place. And girls, it's because you have the girl voice. So this night is for you. Thank you, Mayor Chris. You have talent. City Council, you have talent. Our girls have talent. God bless you, Liberty Lake, for caring about our community and for caring about these girls. We'll see you next year.
Thanks. Thanks. That's a tough act to follow. Friends of the Library report is next. Jandy?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to recognize the Friends of the Library and the impact that they've had on our community. Our library story began many years ago with volunteers. Long before we had a city of any kind, we had a group of community members who came together to create a place for learning, connection, and curiosity. Our library was started in an individual here in Liberty Lake's basement. That volunteer spirit and the shared understanding of the value of learning and community is truly part of our foundation. Today, we are fortunate to still have a thriving and dedicated friends group carry on that legacy. Many libraries are not so lucky. This year, the Friends were selected as the recipient of the 2025 Eastern Humanities Washington Award for Philanthropic Organizations, an honor given to only 10 organizations across Eastern Washington, along with a $1,000 grant. The award highlights the Friends' unwavering commitment to strengthening literacy, culture, and lifelong learning in Liberty Lake. Through their support, our community enjoys programs, poetry slams, speakers, presenters, museum passes, symphony tickets, STEM programs, and lots more. Their work expands what the library can offer far beyond what our regular budget provides. The Friends exemplify what Humanities Washington seeks to uplift: organizations that bring people together, broaden perspectives, and enrich the civic and cultural life of their communities. On behalf of the library, I want to extend our heartfelt congratulations and gratitude to the Friends. Their support keeps our library growing, evolving, and serving as a true community hub.
Right, congratulations.
So I have 3 members of the Friends here today, and I was hoping we could all get a picture together and recognize them. I have Robin Beckedall, who's the president of the Friends, Sue Hamblett, and Kyla Scott.
Awesome.
Sit up, Sue, come on. We get a photo? We're doing this again?
You are doing it again.
Yes. Congratulations. Thanks for all the hard work. Getting our steps in during the meeting here. All right, we're up to reports and inquiries.
No.
Oh, we're not.
11, A, B, and C.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. I didn't write it down. So we will skip to 11 A, B, and C. Starting off with our reappointment of Eugene Huschel. Gene Huschel, where are you? Oh, okay, I saw you stand there behind the podium. Reappointment to the Planning Commission. So I don't know if you want to come up, Gene, and
Want me to make a motion first?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve general business item 11A, the reappointment of Eugene Huischel to the Planning Commission. Second.
All right, before we go to a vote, we'd just love to hear a little bit about your recent experience and why you wanted to re-up your term on the Planning Commission.
Oh, I thought I was just gonna be able to say mission accomplished.
You can say whatever you'd like to.
Okay. Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Eugene Huschel. I go by Herschel. It's a lot easier to understand than my last name. My wife and I have lived in Washington for 30 years, retired out of the military. Was the director of logistics for the Nuremberg community as a big chunk of my military service. A lot of planning, a lot of movements. Of course, it was all military back and forth between the United States and Europe. As a family, I've got 4 sons. We have 4 sons. The youngest one is still here in Spokane. He's the founder of a company called eTails. It's one of the largest internet service providers in the country. Had 350 employees right here in Spokane. Helped found that with him. As I retired out of the military, I decided that I'm going to be a financial advisor. And that helped get us established in Olympia, Washington. So of our 30 years in Washington, most of them spent in Olympia. The last 8 have been here in Liberty Lake. Madam Mayor appointed me approximately 18 months ago to the Planning Commission. I had no experience whatsoever in the city council type operation. And I find it unique. I mean, it's really kind of charismatic, the interaction you see back and forth here. The other piece of the puzzle on the city planning commission is the folks that are on it, the other members of the board are extremely knowledgeable and technically qualified. I'm not technically qualified as an individual. And so they appointed me as a interim, not an interim, but a
Adjunct.
adjunct like that. Each session was right there, second or third seat. Had the opportunity to learn more and more about how the city works. As I talked to my wife about this, she just kind of acknowledged, yes, that's okay. I understand. Her political experiences, she was Governor Inslee's chief of staff for his first term. And then she became the Gates Foundation education advisor. And then she became, well, before that, she became the superintendent of schools at Renton. So we have a lot of experience working with in the community on both sides of the family. I appreciate the opportunity to get up here and talk a little bit and that you'll endorse me.
Well, I'm happy to have you back. I will say, I don't always reappoint people, so I don't want people to think this is an automatic. But I always, talk to fellow commissioners and staff, and you're a valued member, so I welcome you back. I will put this to a vote to the council. For those in favor of reappointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Charlie Jenks.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 11B, the reappointment of Charlie Jenks to the Planning Commission.
We have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Good to see you again. Been a while.
Seeing you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Name is Charlie Jenks, Charles Jenks, more formal. I would really appreciate your support in getting me back on the planning commission. It's been a great experience working with Lisa and the other members of the commission. I will tell you a couple of things about myself. My wife Ilse and I moved to Washington State from Maui, Hawaii. In 2018, we bought property in Legacy Ridge, occupied the house in 2018. I'm active on the Homeowners Association for Legacy Ridge. A little bit of background. I come to you from both public and private sector experience. I was the Director of Public Works in Maui County for 6 years, the Deputy Director for 2 years, was ex officio Planning Commission member for 10 years, served on the State Land Use Commission for a year, and was the president and member of many boards on Maui. So I understand how boards work. The Maui County Council Boy Scouts of America, I was the president. Maui Chamber of Commerce, the president, and the Maui Contractors Association, the president as well. So in private sector practice, worked on some very large projects in Hawaii, residential, commercial, light industrial and heavy industrial, and also a very large golf oriented community on the south shore of Maui. I appreciate any support. The commission has been a great experience. I ask a lot of questions, and I have two things that I really don't like. I don't like to waste taxpayers' money, nor do I like bad public policy. So you can count on me to A, protect the public purse, and 2, protect Liberty Lake, which is a great community, from bad public policy, no matter where it comes from. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. We have, all right. Oh, we have a question from
I've got a
Councilmember
question.
Spencer.
Why would you ever leave Maui?
It was a really hard place to do business.
Oh.
Not like here, I can assure you. It took me, the biggest project I had, I was one of the partners asked me to take it over in January of 2021. And I got the zoning approved in 2021. And I got the zoning approved in 2008. And I left the project in, no, that was 2001. I'm sorry, 2001 to 2008 for the zoning approval. And then I finally resigned in 2021, driving home from my son's wedding with my wife, I called up and I said, I just can't do this anymore. I cannot go back and forth to Maui and ceaselessly end up getting nothing accomplished. So that's why. Thank you for the question.
All right, those in favor of confirming the reappointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion approved. Welcome back.
Mayor, before you move on, just a quick note, Megan Bollinger was unable to join us tonight, so she is not in the audience.
Yeah, Jen had texted me. So we do have an appointment of our student commissioner for, there we are, here we go, for Parks and Arts. But Jen is online and Nancy Hill's here as well. So Nancy, would you mind if I call you up? I know you talked to Megan more than I did. So, but I think she'll be a great addition, but if you can, before we do a motion, I'll just let you speak about the usefulness of having the student commissioner and the purpose that she'll fulfill.
Nancy Hill, Chair of Parks and Arts Commission. And I did have the opportunity to meet Megan. She was recommended by the art teacher at Ridgeline High School. I believe she's a senior this year and just a lovely young woman. She's been involved in a lot of art projects through the high school, including our graffiti barrel program here at Liberty Lake. And she's a busy young lady. I think she might have had to work tonight, but she really wants to be involved in community and give back. And she was very strong in those feelings when I had the conversation with her. And the student perspective is huge. I mean, that helped us get the student art that's rotating at the Trailhead building. And they just bring some new ideas and help us to engage with the young artists in Liberty Lake. So I would highly recommend that she be appointed. We're looking forward to working with her.
Yep. And Jen's on too, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so she let us know that she is involved with AP Arts as well as several other AP art or AP classes at Ridgeline High School. And to Nancy's point, we have a great relationship with the Ridgeline High School students, particularly regarding the art program. So they're sort of the niche and the foot in the door as a direct contact to the Ridgeline High School art program. They've offered us many great projects, and so they're an added benefit to our Parks and Arts Commission to continue that foundation through the future of the Parks and Arts Commission programming.
Great, thank you. So are there any questions that Jen or Nancy might be able to answer? I think Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Ball.
Just real quick, maybe one of you said this and I missed it. What grade is she?
Senior.
Senior. Okay,
She's a senior. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, if we appoint her, is she gonna only be there until?
Probably end of the summer.
End of the,
And then we'll have.
25-26 school year. Yeah. And then we reevaluate through the summer to hopefully get somebody in at the beginning of the 2026-27 school year.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Ball.
Is she the only one student on the Parks and Art Commission?
There's only one. There's only one
Yeah.
position.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Councilmember Dunn.
Grateful for the student engagement and participation in our city government. That's great.
Well, and it's been great working with the school on our student volunteers, and we've had on our agenda to revisit the youth commission, and through these connections is how I hope to kind of bring that back. Now that we're getting our feet wet, obviously it probably won't happen for the rest of the school year, but we're making those connections with the teachers there so we can get recommendations. So looking forward to continuing to leverage those relationships. So if there's no other questions, those in favor of appointing Megan Bollinger to Parks and Arts Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0.
Just real quick, no one moved it.
Who did? Oh, well, then let's do that.
So I don't know.
All right.
We voted, but
I thought he did.
no one moved it yet.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to appoint Megan Bollinger to the student position. Parks and
Okay.
Arts.
Second.
okay. Those in favor of the appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you for that.
Um,
Keep me on track, mister. Yes, go ahead.
we haven't, acknowledged that.
Oh,
Councilman-
Rochelle got it.
Oh,
Rochelle
oh,
got it when
okay.
he came in.
Okay.
Thank you. We made eye contact. We're good.
Oh, okay.
All right, now we are up to reports and inquiries. Are there any city council reports? Go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
I just wanted to report on, I took the webinar last Wednesday given my AWC, of course, on comprehending quasi judicial hearings, which I did not know much about, and I found it very useful. Very good, webinar, seminar, whatever. But, I wanted to take this opportunity also to, mention, and I see, two of our new upcoming council members, well, Summer was here, in the audience, of how important and how useful these AWC sessions are. So I would encourage the incoming folks to take advantage of their classes, their even stuff that's away. In fact, I talked to, Heidi today with AWC. I'm contemplating applying for a board position. So, yeah, and she actually remembered me and.
Oh, they're great. Yes.
And we kind of had a nice conversation. So anyway, they're valuable.
Super. All right. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilmember.
Spokane Transit Authority has announced the, introduction of an app for buses called Transit. This app, I'm going to call it Uber for buses. I mean, you guys got to check this out. It literally allows you to say from and to, identifies which routes are going to be served by it, where the buses are in real time. So as well, if you get to the STA website, it gives you an ability to unlock premium features of the app. So a big commitment, and I'm going to say a recognition to the STA for trying to put together a technology approach to benefit the experience. Also have a long-term date for your calendar. The Liberty Kiwanis have announced their annual father-daughter dance will be moving from the Marabou Park Hotel to the Ridgeline High School. And the date for the event will be the second weekend of March, the 14th of March. So it's out there, and we're excited to be able to bring the event into our community.
Yeah, that's great. Great news. All right. Anybody else? Council reports. All right, jumping into mine, I'll make it short. So piggybacking off of both of our council members. So with regards to AWC, there are a lot of committee positions open for at AWC. If you just go to their website, you should, I think it's pretty easy to find the list of open positions. I've served on legislative committees, the education committee. I've lost track over the years. It's a really good opportunity to get involved and learn some more. And yeah, like Councilmember Ball said, tons of things out there that are either in person, live webinars, recorded webinars. So once new council members do get on board and we get you signed up with AWC, you'll have logins and be able to do that. Most of them are free if they're online. I go back and retake things quite often just because things change. And looking forward to, I don't want to steal Mark's thunder. No, so we will be putting together a few hour orientation for the incoming council members, including whoever is appointed here in the next few weeks. And then getting everybody registered for the newly elected officials training, and for council members who are remaining into the next year. That's always another good thing to retake. I know Councilmember Kennedy and I went to the newly elected officials training several times over the years. And again, things change. So it's always a good thing to refresh on current rules and procedures. And then speaking of transit, so we had the SRTC board meeting last week. And very interesting, we had WashDOT present, and they're working on a better link. But did you know that you can catch bus service from Spokane to Seattle overnight? And there are other intercity routes that are available. There will be one coming, I believe it's Spokane to Tri-Cities fairly soon. So once they get that better link hooked up, I'll work with David Gaynor to get that on the website and get that published. So people who are looking for, an easier way, especially, who wants to drive down to Tri-Cities or somewhere in the winter, when you can maybe ride a bus over a couple hours and make it travel a lot easier. So being able to leverage those services is a great thing for our community. So I think that's all that's coming up. We've got our Valley Chamber board meeting would have been tomorrow, because it's usually the last Wednesday in the month, but that's right before Thanksgiving. So we actually canceled it this month, and then we'll have one next month, and then we'll be done with the end of the year. And Visit Spokane, we've got our board meeting coming up, as well as the holiday open house. I will get, if you guys haven't received that email, I will get that forwarded if you guys would like to attend. Make a note here. All right, I think that's it for me. So we'll turn it over to City Administrator Mark McAvoy for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll try to get through this really efficiently. Just a couple of things to remind everyone of. We've got a full event schedule in front of us. First, a reminder about the application deadline for the open council position number 7 is this Friday, November 21st at 5 p.m. You can submit applications electronically to our city clerk, or you can drop by City Hall and fill one out in person at the front desk. Home for the Holidays, which is the umbrella term for a community celebration that involves a collection of different events. The registration for those things that do require registration is this Friday, November the 21st. And you can find out all about those events on our website at libertylake.wa.gov. Friday and Saturday of this coming week, November 21st and 22nd, we have one of our semi-annual book sales that's sponsored by the Friends of the Liberty Lake Library, who were recognized earlier in this meeting. The book sale is at the library. And so if you're in need of some reading material for the winter, come check that out. There's always a lot of good stuff there. And then a reminder, next week, Thursday and Friday, November 27th and 28th, is the Thanksgiving holiday, and both City Hall and the library will be closed in observance on both of those days. And then some of those individual events I mentioned as part of Home for the Holidays. Light Up Liberty Lake, which is taking place at Trailhead Golf Course on Saturday, November the 29th. That's the tree lighting ceremony. There'll be a lot of stuff happening out there. Santa will be out there. And then also on Saturday, November the 29th, we'll have the start of a couple of the other pieces of Home for the Holidays, which are Winter Wonderland and Battle of the Branches. And both of those things are going to be at Orchard Park starting on Saturday, November 29th. And again, all of the information about all of these events are available or is available at our website at libertylake.wa.gov. Before we move on to some of the other agenda items, any questions about those events? All right, so moving on, we have introduction of new staff members. In this case, we have one to introduce to you, and I'm going to turn the podium over to Kyle and allow him to introduce Shane.
Mark, Mayor, Council, thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce our new IT manager, Shane Miller. He comes to us from Port Angeles, and he is going to head up our IT department. He comes with a wealth of experience. He'll expand on that a little bit more, but he was the IT manager in a very similar role for the North Olympic Library Systems for 5 years, and more recently an adjunct professor at UW. And so without further ado, I'll have him give you a little bit more on his background, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Kyle, and Madam Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here and to be of service. I appreciate the opportunity to serve the city of Liberty Lake. Prior to the experience with the North Olympic Library System, I was in private sector with a variety of several startups over the years, so small business background. I had an ISP company in the late 90s and early 2000s when web hosting was a fairly new thing. And then I started a call center company, not the telemarketing kind, but rather I saw an opportunity as business was starting to go offshore to use a distributed rural workforce model. And I partnered up with Washington State University to pioneer that model to offer an onshore alternative in the US and keep some of that business here in the country. And then just in time for the pandemic, I jumped over to help our local library there in Clallam County get through the challenges of the pandemic, and taught at the University of Washington's Information School, specializing in cybersecurity. And I'm quite pleased now to be here at Liberty Lake. Thank you.
And again, I just want to extend our deep appreciation for Evan and Executech kind of shepherding us through our in-house third-party professional managed services back to in-house. And so a lot of gratitude to Evan specifically and Executech as a whole for
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks, Evan.
Well, I will say that the interview with Shane was probably one of the more fun ones I've had recently, since that's kind of what I work for a managed services company. So I felt the most prepared for my interview with Shane of any in the recent years. So we're really greatly appreciative that he was able to start so quickly. When did we do your final interview? When was it?
Yeah, the turnaround I think was like 4 days.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I think it was
yeah.
like Thursday or Friday, and it was like, and I called and say, well, when's he starting? They're like, yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really glad. We really appreciate you being able to make the switch so quickly, and good luck with all the transition and everything from the west side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, we have Shane.
Welcome.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Now, at the second meeting of the month is traditionally when we have distributed the department monthly reports and now give council an opportunity to ask department heads any questions that they may want to ask about those reports.
Councilmember Ball.
I have questions for Lisa. What? Oh, well, that's exciting. Yeah. Okay, so they're not hard. So there's 15 new condos coming. Like, that's awesome. Where are they gonna be?
So they are right on Indiana. They front on Indiana. They're alley served off of the new Kramer Parkway extension that has not yet been accepted by the city yet.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, so.
Okay, and then I was shocked to see there's a movement on Topgolf. So they've actually applied for a permit.
They have actually applied for a permit. Yes, that's correct.
So they got all their corporate stuff figured out then.
Yeah, they have the ownership has now been figured out.
Mhm.
I believe the closing on the property is scheduled for sometime late April. So we're gonna get the plans in review. They do still have to complete the amendment to the binding site plan.
That'll be binding site plan number 22.
I actually think they're 21, but.
The last one was the 21st.
Oh,
I've been
okay,
joking
you're-
about it for the last year.
Okay.
Sorry, Linda, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
And then Ridgeline Center. So is it gonna be like business townhomes or, I mean?
No, it's actually, they envision, it's a phased development with 3 office buildings.
Oh,
So it's located just on the east side of Broadway, the northeast corner of
Yeah.
Broadway and Country Vista Appleway.
oh, so it's 3 separate buildings.
Well, they've got the building, they've got one building in permitting. It's a phased development. They just recorded their record of survey. It is a phased development. There's 2 more buildings. Kind of like how Rudine does his development, so they're doing one building at a time.
Oh, okay, but they're for business, yeah.
Yeah, but it is business, yes. It's commercial.
Huh, okay, and then on the comp plan, what are story maps? What's that on?
So that's a way to engage the public using ArcGIS maps. And it's an online application that you can use. You can, whether you access it with your laptop, your home computer, on your phone, etc. It's a way to scroll through, get information. You can take a deeper dive. You can jump ahead to things that, like, there's questions you can click on and it'll go to that section if that's what you're interested in and whatnot. We also have some survey questions, etc. So it's just a different way to engage people, and it's particularly valuable when you're dealing with something that is very geography based, like the transportation network, like housing and where housing is going to go, etc. It actually is a great platform. We've used it for like history, the historical section of the comp plan. Just kind of dabbling in it, but these will be really a great way for people to engage in what the transportation analysis is recommending to be included in the comp plan, and also to take that deeper dive into what the new housing regulations will look like for the city of Liberty Lake. So
So they'll live in the website in the comp plan part or whatever.
there'll be a link there, yeah, and it's actually being hosted by the consultants that have been working on those for us. So SCJ Alliance is doing the housing, Parametrics is doing the network analysis, but it's a hosted, it's web hosted, and they're providing the platform for us.
That's it.
All right. Any other questions for Lisa? Then
Lisa, regarding the Topgolf project, would you call that a 2026 or 2027 construction season project?
I'm not certain, to be perfectly frank, but I would expect, since they've got the building permit application in, that they're anticipating a 2026 construction period. But again, these things can change.
Thanks.
How long will it take them to build it?
Je ne sais pas.
That's what it is.
Yep. Very good. All right. Any other questions for Lisa or any other of the directors on the reports? Okay, not hearing any. Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa, for the clarification. You have in front of you on the dais report of the donations for both the second and third quarters of 2025, and Rochelle is going to walk you through those and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mark. For the second quarter, and I won't list them all as you can see there, but the police department received cookies and treats. The library received gift cards from Fred Meyer and also Safeway, in which they purchased items for the Tetra-Truck. And then also in the month of June, the Parks and Arts received an arbor by Mike Harper, excuse me. And then moving on to third quarter, there were a few donations, and this was for the Blue Bridge program. As council remembers, this was presented September 2nd. A few leadership donated to that, and as well as Rudine. And then in September, third quarter, as you remember, Mike Kennedy representing private donors. That's where the memorial bench, and then also the Craig Howard Memorial Plaque.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Just correction on the, under the Craig Howard, you have it listed as Treetop Memorial Bench. That was the company that actually supplied the bench, so I would recommend just put it as Craig Howard Memorial Bench.
Wait, under purpose, that's what it says.
Yeah.
I can make that change.
All right. Thank you, Rochelle. And then finally, I'll invite Kyle back up to the mic to talk about the results of the 2024 financial audit.
Thanks again, Mark. So staff in the state auditor's office held our 2024 annual financial and accountability audit exit conference today at 11. Council and the mayor have the results of that audit. I am happy and proud to report that we have nothing to report. And so they did, their area of focus this year was on our restricted funds with our newly implemented transportation benefit district to make sure that we're expending those funds in accordance with RCW and our policy. Accounts receivable for the golf course, general accounts payable, open public meetings, and our general financial condition. And so they found no material misstatements on either the financial or the accountability audit. And they will publish that here before the end of the month on their website. So
Well done.
absolutely appreciate it. Thank you. And that's it.
All right, Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, next up, we have Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Do we have anybody online or here? Why can't we get that figured out?
I'm looking for guidance from, I know we've communicated multiple times, so we'll have to, I'll call Jay tomorrow. We'll figure it out.
It's like, I'll just keep putting them on, and if they show, they show. But yeah. Okay, next up, Parks and Arts Commission. Welcome back, Nancy Hill.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we have some slides I'm sure Evan's going to bring up, and Evan's, done a wonderful job. We love him at Parks and Arts Commission, so we'll miss him. We've been working with the SCJ Alliance Consulting Firm, starting phase 2 of the park plan. That's been interesting. We're really moving into the public engagement portion of that. And I believe there are going to be some students that will be part of the participants, along with community members, as we narrow down what the public wants in the parks. And then on December 10th, we're going to meet with the Planning Commission in a joint workshop to go over things like that we interact with. Level of service will be a big one. And kind of as we start tightening down that plan and getting ready to finish it up. And Jen and her team, of course, do a fantastic job with that. And we've really enjoyed working with them and being a part of it with the SCJ Alliance. So that's been fun. Next slide. Okay, projects. We're still working on 2025, but on your agenda tonight is the signal box wraps. There's going to be a donation by STCU for both the ones at the Legacy Ridge entrance and then the Kramer Parkway. The images you see on the screen are what we're going to be installed at the signal boxes at Kramer Parkway. We picked something kind of not too flashy because just to the side of that will be the sculpture piece, and we didn't want to detract from that, so we think that they'll be a nice mix. We don't have the art yet for Legacy. That's a patriotic theme, but we have engaged an artist who will be providing with some patriotic art, which will kind of tie into the Hometown Heroes, which goes through that area. We should really hope we're going to get that sculpture installed this year. You'll see on your agenda tonight, Bacon Concrete for the forum. They've already been in touch with the artist, and Ben assures me we may have a teeny little window to get that in this year. If not, it'll be spring. The sculpture is done. It's ready to be installed, and I'm ready to see it. So, and I'm tired of telling you about it. So I think we're going to get there. The goat sculpture that is coming along. We've seen the draft of the conceptual drawing, and you'll see in upcoming agendas that artist agreement, and we're just excited and think you're going to be really thrilled with that at Town Square. Next slide. This has probably been one of our more unexpected but yet most satisfying projects when Jen's team identified the tripping hazard at Orchard Park. Apparently when kids are playing wildly in the splash pad, they don't always look where they're going, and the boulders, were kind of blended in. Well, they no longer blend in. And the artwork these two women have done is just incredible. If you haven't seen it, walk over to Orchard Park. It's really great. We're so excited about the 21 boulders that we did that we may have to walk around and find a few more, which there are plenty there. And kids have been looking, parents. I mean, it's really been a big hit. So we're excited that project is complete. Next slide. Our budget highlights. We have a lot going on. The new City Hall really made us jump really quick on that wagon because, as you've seen from carryover projects, it takes a while to bring in art. And our goal is to have art coming in at a more regular basis, and we need to time it with the new City Hall because you'll see on another agreement coming up, we're going to be working with an artist consultant through Spokane Art, and they can help us with some of these bigger projects because we're just a small group of volunteers that don't know as much as those people. And we want to make sure with the City Hall project, we get it right. There's an opportunity to do something on the outside and then do something in the lobby on the inside so that it's really a welcoming and inviting place for the community. So that's a big piece of that with the City Hall project. The basketball court mural, we've had positive feedback, so we're going to try to do one at Rocky Hill. That's just a single concrete court. That should go pretty quickly. As part of the birthday celebration, we moved up the pavilion ticket booth and mural extension project. We had that a few years out, but we thought, wouldn't that be nice to have that as a backdrop to our city celebration? So that's wrapping the restroom concession area around the side. The ticket booth was rebuilt this year by Ben and his team, and we're ready to kind of paint a little person in the ticket window kind of thing. So we'll tie that all in to our historical theme. Again, the artist consultant agreement, that's to help us with big projects like the city hall. And you know, I've mentioned it before, we've had trouble getting artists on our call for qualifications. So they'll broaden the pool where the word will get out, and hopefully we'll have more artists coming in, and we have the bigger projects, more art to choose from. And then we do need a little maintenance next year. We want to keep our murals. We don't want to get them too bad. So the artist said, oh, that's really simple. So we'll have some touch up on the basketball court mural at Pavilion Park and then the skate park. But they've held up really well, but we want to keep them looking nice. Carryover project, the Pavilion Historical Outlet, we were ready to go. Design is done, the layout is done. Slight delay from the Historical Society on the material that we're going to show on that. And because of the delay, and we didn't ask for a carryover budget, that is now going to be funded by a donor. So woohoo, it'll probably go in next year. And that allowed us a little extra budget this year to start the birthday art, which is pivotal in getting that done. So it was really a blessing in disguise, and we're always grateful for our donors.
Nancy, is that, just curious, is that an individual or a company or
Well, I
foundation?
think it's the Historical Society, but maybe with the help of one particular member. So I didn't want to say for sure, but something to do with the Historical Society. And as I said, we're starting the birthday art, and then we're going to do a story walk over by the ball fields, but we're waiting with the high school kids that do the work on that, and they can't take that project on and probably until spring. So we're looking at postponing that till next year. So next slide. Events, we're completely supportive of Home for the Holidays. Jen and her team doing that turnaround after the loss of Winterglow has been phenomenal, and it's going to be a lot of different and exciting things for the community to participate in, and we've been excited to be a part of that. And of course, the upcoming birthday. You'll see there's some agenda items coming up. Again, the donation is on tonight from STCU, and then the agreement also tonight with Bacon Concrete for the foundation for the sculpture, and the others will be coming up. So we're excited about getting some of these projects almost done, and other ones just getting started. And next slide. Oh, and that's it. Questions?
Councilmember Ball.
So when does Ben, I think the window of opportunity is going to happen to pour that foundation?
Well, I mean, just from what Ben had told me earlier, if it's approved tonight, Bacon Concrete has already been in touch with the artist because they have to kind of do it together. They pour the concrete, stick the stuff in. And so I think they're ready to go right away. Just that window, and I don't know a lot about concrete, but we have had some mild weather, so.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really nice tomorrow.
Well, I don't know if they'll do it tomorrow.
I don't know if it'll happen that fast.
You know, unless they're watching tonight, you never know, right?
Hey, I just mentioned it, like, chop, chop, you know.
All right. Any other questions?
And once again, thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for all your hard work, Nancy. Appreciate it. All right. Last but not least, Salary Commission. Who is here?
It's Kyle's coming back.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we had one of our members here.
Thanks again. So just an update on the Salary Commission's efforts in 2025 for 2026 wages. So Mark Saba, Aaron Asmus, and Jim Baumker comprise the Salary Commission as it's currently constructed, and they met twice in October and once again for a public hearing in November to review salaries and wages for elected officials. And I want to, again, extend my gratitude to their work and the work on the Salary Commission. It is very important to have an independent body reviewing the salaries and wages for elected officials, because as you see statewide, I review the data every year, and you have elected officials in cities that are mired in these 10, 15, 20-year stagnant wages, and that does not benefit those cities. You want to attract people in your community that will provide you value, and you want to attract a wage that's going to want them to participate. And so I'm very grateful for the work that they do and the information that we put together to independently review and input salaries into the upcoming budget. And so with that, we review, our data pool is between a population of between 10 and 30,000 with a strong mayor form of government, strong mayor council form of government, obviously just like ours. So we review that and we age it to January of the upcoming year. And so based on that, we have a pool of about 30 entities. Then we further kind of whittle those down to ensure that they're not full-time employees and they're not benefits eligible. And so we're truly comparing apples to apples. And so the outcome of those meetings was a 7% increase for both the mayor and council. And so effective January 1st, 2026, the monthly salary for the mayor will be $28.65. The monthly salary for council members will be $9.40, and those are per month. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Doesn't look like there are any.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank the members of the
Absolutely. Will do.
commission for us, please. Okay. That it? Okay.
That's it.
All right, that's it. So we're up to workshop discussions. First up, we have the shared response to homelessness. Thanks for your patience, gentlemen. I think Mark's gonna kick us off and then maybe we'll have our guests.
Yeah, very quickly, I'm going to
Yes.
invite Chud Wendell up to the podium. He's going to introduce his team, but just as you're following along in the packet, the proposed memorandum of understanding starts on page 12. This is in draft form. And so Chud and his team are going to share with you kind of the genesis of this and what it's intended to accomplish. And so with that, I'll turn the floor over to Chud.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mayor Chris and council members. My name's Chud Wendell. I'm the executive director of the Hutton Settlement Children's Home. I'm also the incoming board chair of the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce and get to work closely with Mayor Chris on that. In addition, we just launched, or Spokane just launched, the Safe and Healthy Task Force, which is really looking at how do we address the complex criminal justice system and what's needed out there. And so we're on a pretty quick, fast-paced 6-month run here to come forward with some solutions that we'll bring. And in addition to this, my job is to provide a safe home for our children. And many of our children have come out of homeless situations. Many of our children have come out of vulnerable situations with facing trauma, abuse, neglect, abandonment. And ironically, we're funded by commercial property. And so I've spent a lot of time in Spokane managing 23 commercial properties and dealing with some of the challenges that have come with what Spokane is facing. And that sent me down a path about 6 years ago, really digging into trying to understand a little bit more of the complexities around homelessness and mental health and addiction issues. And I'm going to speed it up. I'll speed it up to the summer. One of the things that we provide at Hutton is really that safe home where there's accountability, but the kids need that structure. They need the treatment. They need the love, the nurturing, but they can't do it on their own. They have to have the care. And that equates to where we're at tonight and what we're presenting to you as the council. Back in July, President Trump signed an executive order called the Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. And really what it's doing is doing what we do at Hutton, and that's flipping the philosophy of going housing first to treatment first. And that's what we do at Hutton. We're really focused on the treatment and working on that child and providing that transformational opportunity for the child. So where did that take us? Well, that took us to a team we started working together this summer, right after the executive order was signed. And on the team is our Spokane County Prosecuting Attorney, Preston McComb. He's going to share a couple words. Sheldon Jackson, who's a local developer in Spokane and really active in trying to seek solutions. And then Sheriff John Knowles. And what we have in front of you is a memo of understanding. And this MOU is just what it is a memo of understanding between Spokane County, all of the cities of Spokane County, including Liberty Lake. And I got to tell you tonight, it is great to be here because there's some positive energy and we all need that. And the towns of Spokane County, really to how do we respond to homelessness? So I'm going to turn this over to Sheldon, who's going to give the why.
Thank you for listening to us tonight. When we started this, first of all, Chud and I have been doing this for 6 years, and we have seen that we need treatment first, and we need accountability. And the city of Spokane just passed an ordinance here a few weeks ago, which has brought accountability to Spokane, and it's made a huge difference. What we're looking at is the executive order from President Trump stated, raise your hand if you are willing to take funds for treatment first and for drug addiction and mental health. And we are the first county in the whole nation to bring forth this MOU. And I've been waiting here on my phone to see if the HUD back in DC, they have already looked at this MOU and they are going to support us with this. And so what we're asking you, City of Liberty Lake, Airway Heights has already signed it. We're trying to get every single city across the county to sign this. So we'll be the first county in the nation to go, yes, we will take these funds for mental health and drug addiction. Treatment first, not housing first, housing second. So that's how we got to this. It's been, what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and we're ready to go. Hopefully you'll sign it, and we'll get every single city in the county to sign it. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Council, I appreciate you having us here tonight. Those of you who I have not met, my name is Preston McCollum. I'm currently the Spokane County Prosecuting Attorney. I was appointed by the Board of County Commissioners following Mr. Haskell's retirement this summer. Prior to that, my background is I worked within trial units within our office. My last assignment, I was the Chief Criminal Deputy for the county, supervising our criminal division. And prior to that, I worked in guns, gangs, and drugs, primarily in our major crimes and gangs unit. And so I can tell you firsthand what the impact and effects of the Housing First model has done to our community. And, working with these gentlemen as we address, this issue and try to address what's occurring within our community. And I think it's very important to recognize frankly, the failure of this Housing First model. And so when the president issued that executive order in July, the idea is that communities, whether it's a city, a county, a state, municipalities that actually embrace an accountability model versus that services model will potentially move to the head of the line for receiving funding on a federal level. I was just reviewing, in anticipation of coming here, just the National HUD website, and I had a couple of takeaways that I wanted to share. And one of them was just talking about the successes that are being touted by the federal administration, one of which is that they executed new and updated grant agreements to ensure that recipients were fully aligned with the executive orders. One of them being this endemic vagrancy executive order. I've spoken with a lot of individuals on both sides of the aisle, and I want to be very clear, while I am the prosecuting attorney, I'm here speaking to you tonight based, on frankly, altruism, a desire for this community to be better. I have 4 children that I'm raising in this community. My oldest is 10, my youngest is 8 months old. And again, as a criminal prosecutor, I've seen the impacts that affect every level of our citizenry, whether it's the children that wind up, receiving services from, Mr. Wendell's facility, or individuals that are in the jail or in the prison system. And so I do have a care to see that, we are doing smart governance and trusting what we're doing with our funds and how we're applying it within the community. And so, the executive order from this administration requires accountability. I think that the experts across the board are starting to look at that and fall into alignment. And so this isn't a right or left issue. This is a right or wrong issue. We've found that providing services without accountability breeds disorder and chaos in our community, disorder and chaos in our streets. And so, we are looking at the citizens and the cities, towns within our county to look at this MOU and like Sheldon said, it is literally we have our hand up saying, hey, we actually support those ideals. This isn't a political issue. We support accountability. We support treatment first. We support humanely addressing, the homeless problem within our community. We support humanely addressing drugs within our community and having that accountability model. And so that's what this MOU essentially does. If you look at, the major tenets, it is something that frankly should be agreeable to every city within this county. There's nothing controversial in it. It describes the need for treatment first, having person-centered services, having collaboration and coordination across the jurisdictions. So we have a unified approach, addressing public health and safety, right? So looking at it as a public health endemic or safety issue, and then having accountability and transparency so that we're not just throwing public funds into a hole and then we don't know where they went. And so at a minimum, this MOU just, again, serves as a placeholder or a signpost to say our county or our city, our community wants this. And as Sheldon, mentioned it, and or rather, as Chud did, coming to this meeting tonight was so refreshing to me, because what I see is a group of individuals in a community that actually cares about their community. Even how we're talking about the salary and wage, study, having the Girl Scouts here and recognizing them. What I'm seeing here is a sense of working for the community purpose, not just for today, but for tomorrow. You're accounting for the arts. You're accounting for the veterans within our community. Just everything about attending this meeting. I've said to both these gentlemen as we're sitting here, this has been probably the best city council type meeting that I've been to ever. So congratulations to Liberty Lake for the way you're handling yourselves. I would love to come and hang out on another city council meeting. And maybe tonight,
Pick wisely.
maybe tonight you were just putting the shine on for everybody
Taking
else.
applications.
I thought it was very well done. But no, all to say, I do think that this is a very positive step, and a non-controversial step. And so if there are any questions about this, as Chud pointed out, we had a number of individuals that worked on it. Sheriff Knowles spent a good amount of time with these gentlemen talking through these issues. These two gentlemen are far more versed than most, and certainly than myself, in addressing a lot of the questions and issues, because they've been in the trenches fighting this on a day in and day out basis. Our business owners, our business leaders are the ones that bear the cost of bad governance. They're the ones that bear the cost, in addition to the crime victims in our community. Our crime victims, have to bear the effects when their homes are burglarized, when they're personally attacked, throughout this community. And if the response is we just keep throwing good money after bad money, there are problems. So again, I do think that this is a positive, and could be a beacon of light, and hopefully it will assist in attracting additional federal funding to our community in an area where we desperately need funding. We need funding in the mental health and the drug treatment arena, and I do hope that this would open a pathway towards that.
Right. We'll open for questions. This is a workshop tonight. Obviously, the document is draft. We'll have a final version coming at another time for action. But I really thank you, gentlemen, for all your hard work on this. That's a great step forward after many, many attempts to start and stalls over the years. So thank you for taking point on this. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just real quick, two questions. One is, let's say we and the others sign on to this, and then what? What happens next? And then I guess my second question is, how are you going to get the city of Spokane to sign on to this? Because they've been, let's just say, not supportive of these type of things.
And I might defer to these gentlemen to answer some of those. My short answer is I think we slayed the giants in front of us today. And as I said earlier, I do believe that these issues should primarily be nonpartisan. They should be non-controversial. We want a safer, cleaner, healthier Spokane County, period. And so the tenets that we're proposing within this MOU embrace that. And in terms of what happens next, we have to signal that we are ready to participate and receive whatever I think the federal government's willing to offer in these circumstances. And so in doing this, my concern is if we don't take steps to recognize it as individual municipalities, as individual cities, we may not even be on the menu in terms for service. And that's one of the concerns that I have. And so I would hate to see our community, whether it's Eastern Washington, Spokane County, held hostage based on fights that are far beyond our ability to impact. And so at a minimum, I think the MOU just signals, again, I'm here, I've got my hand up. As community, we're willing to engage with this. And so I'll defer to Sheldon because he has some thoughts on this as well.
Well, first of all, Housing First is going away. So I sent out an article today, $40 million King County's losing for Housing First. So there's a high motivation to embrace what's going to be happening here, because you're going to lose the Housing First funding, and it's going to be Treatment First funding. And so you need to follow the path to get the Treatment First funding. Spokane, City of Spokane. I'm in City of Spokane, so that's a great question that you asked there. Remember 3 weeks ago, we got an ordinance passed that I never thought we would get passed in the City of Spokane. Pressure, pressure, pressure. And if we get all the other signatures from all the other cities in the county and the county itself to sign off, that's a tremendous amount of pressure that I think we will be able to get past the City of Spokane for that question you had. Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions? Councilmember Kennedy and then Councilmember Volb and Councilmember Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So my question is, let's say every homeless person in Spokane said, sure, I'll go into rehab or whatever their problem is. Where are they going to do that? They can't be, pushing their Safeway card around and getting treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you intend to have them stay? I understand you.
That's part of the treatment deal are you familiar with Dr. Marbut?
Dr. Who?
Marbut?
No.
Dr. Marbut has come to Spokane, a half a dozen times. And Dr. Marbut believes in this theory that you come to treatment first in a larger facility, and then out the back door, you go to housing. And so let's look at a person that's sitting in one of our viaducts in downtown Spokane. How is that person ready for housing? I mean, they're going to destroy the housing. They might die in housing. They're not ready for housing. So what you do is you bring them into a facility, treatment first, then you take them to housing.
I understand that, but where are these facilities?
Well, I mean, first of all, we need to ask for the funding, and then we had one. We had the Trent facility. And if we would have had treatment there, it would have been a whole different story. So that's what we're asking the federal government to help us with, is into more of a facility that you bring the mental health and drug addiction into a facility, and then out the back door, you go into housing.
So, yeah, so other things have to happen first before we get to that. Councilmember Kennedy.
My reference would be to, when I first was reading about this and was aware of it, being on a council, a lot of things come to us. We're asked to make decisions. A lot of times we don't have 100% of the information, but we try to get enough information to make a logical decision. I felt that I had sufficient information to make a logical decision here.
Sure.
But I have to admit that organizations get started, for me, I rely a lot on the people who I see who are organized with that. When I saw Mr. Board Representative come in here, who I've known somewhat for many, many years, I realized the credibility that he brought to this table, and that I support this 100%. He represents Hutton Settlement, which is an organization that was funded by private individuals that took the attitude, we're not going to go to the government. We're not going to be controlled by that. So I think if I see individuals such as this individual and other individuals that he will attract to use this money sufficiently, I'm very hopeful that this will be successful, and I certainly will support that. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
Councilmember Spencer, then Councilmember Kurtz.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for your presentation. It's funny you mentioned breath of fresh air, because I was actually thinking that as you guys were talking. How much different would our world be if we had accountability in all areas of our government and throughout our country? I look at this and think this is the right path. And obviously, we've already seen the model that has proven to be a failed model, going straight to housing. They're not prepared for it. So I fully support this and I thank you for your work on this.
Councilmember Kurtz. My question was a little bit about the accountability piece. Do you have any framework for that, like what that means, or is that something that would come in the development process of the program?
Well, so the mental health portion and the drug addiction portion is after the accountability. And it's up to us as our communities to do the accountability portion. The government's not going to come in and step in and say, we're going to fund your accountability. They're going to say, if you are accountable, we will fund your mental health and your drug addiction services. So this is where the conflict's going to be, is, do I see this happening in Seattle? Not today. I think it can happen here in Spokane. I think it can happen in Spokane County. We have passed this MOU per request to Tri-Cities, to Bellevue. Asotin has even asked for it. We're going to go around the state to the communities that believe in the accountability portion, because the federal government's not going to fund it if you're not accountable. So that's going to be up to you in Liberty Lake, your police department, and what your plans are for the accountability. And then you will get funds by the federal government to help with your mental health and drug addiction. Oh, sure.
And so, the intent here is not to be purposely vague, but in terms of accountability, what HUD is looking at are areas that are going to embrace policies that do not reward increased drug use, increased violence and attacks within their community. So rather than having a facility that hands out drugs or hands out the, utensils or whatever it is that will further that lifestyle, are going to be moved to the top of the list versus the bottom of the list. So communities that are embracing public safety policies that require enforcement of the law, that require holding offenders accountable, are going to be, that's what we're talking about. We're talking accountability in terms of we as a community holding individuals accountable instead of automatically saying, well, that's a drug issue or a mental health issue. We're not going to do anything about that, but throw money at it and provide housing, because we're seeing that breed more crime. We're seeing that breed more victimization in the community. And so one of the things that the executive order addresses directly is, specifically, enforcing relevant municipal and county codes, regarding open drug use, regarding, how we address transitional housing. Are there requirements that come with that? Are those requirements, and what our position is that those requirements should be treatment. It's before you get the carrot, you should actually, engage in that contract with your community. Before I'm receiving money from this community, I'm demonstrating that I'm engaging in behaviors that are going to lead to my success. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here. So the idea here is like we see with this photograph, right? This is the aerial view. All we're wanting to do is paint at a 30,000 foot level. We are open to accountability within this community. Liberty Lake is open to take funds, and we're going to use them in a way that's responsible. And then as those funds come in, whether it comes to the city, to the county, to whatever municipality is willing to engage in those policies, our hope is that they'd be implemented in a way that you're both accountable to the citizenry, but also you're setting addicts, you're setting the homeless individuals up for success, so that we're not just in this repeating revolving cycle. And so in terms of accountability, that's a lot of what we're discussing there. But we're taking the language directly from HUD in terms of what they're going to be prioritizing in their federal grants.
So I think my background is in social work, and so I think that's why some of the accountability questions come up for me, and also around the policies and what would be required if we were to sign on to this MOU, what those accountability policies might be that we would need to consider and think about what the HUD language actually is. that we need to preemptively think about if we're going to sign on to an MOU. So I think that moving forward, I think that's what I would like to understand a little bit more is it sounds like it's a little bit more about accountability for the cities to do and enact policies, which is accountability, but also for people who are struggling with mental health or substance abuse to be accountable in some way. And I'd like to understand both of those accountability frameworks.
Okay. And I will say in terms of getting to a granular level, this MOU does not do that. Right. So the MOU gives us the 30,000 foot view of we're willing to engage in these policies. But in order to, I think, fully consider what we're talking about here, you have to look at the executive order, but also, look at this and say, how are those, meshing together and working together? And so I had a quote from the executive order that I thought was relevant, and it's in section 5 regarding HUD. And it says the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development shall take appropriate actions to increase accountability in their provision of grants and awards awarded for homeless assistance and transitional living. These acts shall include, to the extent permitted by law, ending support for housing first policies that deprioritize accountability and fail to promote treatment, recovery, and self-sufficiency. So what we're saying here is we want to embrace a model that is promoting treatment, recovery, and self-sufficiency. And so, we're not getting down to that granular nitty-gritty. This is just an opener for later discussion. And so one of the things that, I've discussed with folks as they're looking at this, I don't want the takeaway to be that, oh man, I am bound to this provision or that provision. The idea is that we're trying to get individuals and cities and municipalities together to embrace the spirit of this particular movement and say, hey, we are open for business. We want to collaborate. We want to work, and we're willing to, look at these different models that actually bring success. So what Sheldon said in terms of Dr. Marbut, we had studies that have been commissioned in Spokane. He's come and spoken on issues here quite frequently. He's an individual that runs, I think it's a 2,700 bed treatment facility in San Antonio. So they have actual evidence-based models that show success. And so right now what we're doing is not that.
Yes, I was watching Annie's face, so I want to make sure she doesn't have a follow-up.
I did. Oh, yes, sorry. So say the city does sign on to the MOU, if at some point down the road, when I think there's a task force that's going to be developed to develop policies and stuff like that, cities don't like the direction that it's headed, then what? Can you rescind your support of the MOU? Like, how does that work?
What I would say to you is it's entirely up to all of you,
Okay.
right? So if in the event that you were to bring this to a vote and vote upon it, you don't like the direction that it's going later on down the road, then, you have an ability to take your ball and go home. But my hope is that this is just, an opener that breeds additional discussion, more collaboration, because what we're seeing a lot right now is just log jabbing over certain issues. So if you and I disagree on, what baseball team we like, that shouldn't preclude our ability to decide if something's right or wrong, right? And we're seeing that on a large scale right now, and we need to dispense with that and just address the issues that are actual, right and wrong issues. We might disagree on a lot of things, but as a community, we have to start agreeing on the right and wrong issues, because together we have to rise, because if we remain divided, we're going to continue falling down.
Yeah, just to add on to, those are great questions. I appreciate it. From sort of the same background, the Safe and Healthy Task Force that was launched in September is getting from that 30,000 foot level down to not necessarily a granular level, but to a level where we are going to come forward to the elected officials of Spokane County and the municipalities with an ordinance or a measure of some kind, and whatever that looks like. And if it's a facility with addiction treatment, mental health treatment, and an opportunity to divert some of the arrests going over to get treatment first, that I think that's where it's headed. But we won't have anything out until May. So this sort of coincides with it. This is that 30, like he said, Preston said, the 30,000 foot. I'm really excited about this Safe and Healthy Task Force because it's a very diverse group. And I think we're going to come forward with something in May that I hope you'd like.
All right, real quick, I think Sean.
I'm okay.
Oh, you're okay now? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Did Linda have something else that she was in? Okay. So first of all, I just want to echo what Councilmember Kennedy said about you, Chud, and you and I have known each other for a long time, and anything that you sign on to, I really have great respect for. I guess my overall comment is that, you know, we can continue to do what we're doing right now, which has been a colossal and cruel failure, in my opinion, or we can try something new. And in my view, this gives us the opportunity to at least try something new and see if that works too. And as you mentioned, if it doesn't and we don't like the way it's heading, we can, as Preston said, we can take our ball and go home. But nothing prevents us from at least trying to see if this path forward can help solve some of the issues that we're facing. So thank you.
We haven't heard from Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah, I particularly appreciate the objective of creating collaboration and cooperation. I think that's the one thing that's been missing, or that I recognize as imperative. This isn't a problem for one jurisdiction or another. It's a problem for everyone in this region. And the ability for these agencies you've identified clearly to come together in some degree is really important. I think the statement of objectives and goals that have been provided further are, I like the words right or wrong. They aren't specific in policy. They aren't specific in actions being asked of a specific agency, but more sort of an agreement perhaps on what we think is the right thing to do. So yeah, I value highly this objective, and I look forward to more discussion in this council about being able to participate.
Councilmember Spencer.
Well, I'll just add, you know, if you look at organizations in our community like Family Promise who do implement this accountability and an aim for self-reliance and self-sufficiency, it's working. Those organizations work. And so if we are going to take a regional approach to this, and we're going to sign on as a community and say what is working, and there's use cases that are already showing effective results. So as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, you know, it's something that we really haven't tried. And you know, for those of us here in Liberty Lake, we aren't affected by this issue as much as the city of Spokane, but it is moving this way. And I think this is the time that we need to take to nip it in the bud.
Anybody else? Well, again, we thank you for all your work and looking forward to the future and what it brings, and whatever you need, just let us know.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, next up, opioid settlement funds.
So Chief Simmons is going to lead this discussion, and just as he's being promoted to a panelist here, just sort of frame the issue and remind the council that over the last several years, the city has entered into multiple opioid settlement agreements that the State Attorney General's office has negotiated. And so through that, we've gotten a variety of different settlement amounts that are paid, and depending on the settlement, over fixed or single payment, payments over time. And so as a result of all of those, we currently have a balance in that fund of approximately $68,000 that we've been looking for opportunities to invest primarily in something that would be centered on addressing the issue specifically in Liberty Lake versus pooling our funds and losing some of their impact if they went into some pot that was shared across the region. And so with that, we're bringing you some information tonight that we feel meets that objective. And so with that, I'll turn the floor over to Chief Simmons.
Thank you, Mark. And I did have a presentation. I assume that's we're ready to bring that up. If not, I have it up on my computer. I can share my screen. There we go.
It's coming. Oh, yeah.
There we go. So good evening, Madam Mayor, administrators, or excuse me, City Council, citizens of Liberty Lake. I just want to take a few minutes tonight to talk to you on the 2nd, December the 2nd. You will see on the agenda a request to use those opioid abatement funds to purchase digital forensic equipment for our investigative unit. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes tonight to kind of explain the why in that, to start with the why, explain how important digital forensics is in not only narcotics and drug investigations, but also things like internet crimes against children investigations, and I mean, all types of things that we investigate. So next slide, please. So why digital forensics and why does it matter in policing? Well, we all know that digital devices are mainstream. They are a part of our lives. We use them at work, we use them at home. I mean, many of us who have small children, I mean, we see our kids at 4 or 5 years old become proficient at using tablets and video games. And I mean, they're just a part of our life. Well, there's no difference in when we start talking about the criminal element and individuals who commit crimes. Digital devices are just as useful to the criminal element as they are to us at work and and within our family lives. With that, there's always evidence that is contained within these devices when people commit crimes in their phones, in their apps, in their iCloud accounts, on other digital networks. And as law enforcement, when we investigate particular crimes, say technology facilitated crimes against children, crimes, missing persons, it doesn't even have to necessarily sometimes be a crime, but you know, things like missing persons, runaway juveniles. I mean, there's just a ton of things that we investigate where we have digital devices and evidence is contained on those devices. And so it's super important for us to have the ability to obtain that evidence from those devices. It accelerates case closure and it helps with prosecution of devices. Why is this important to us, and why are we asking for the funds to help bring that ability to us as a department? Well, self-sufficiency improves our timeliness, and it also reduces our outsourcing costs. Excuse me. Right now, we outsource all of our digital forensics, or a majority of our digital forensics, depending on the case, to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. There's numerous, I mean, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office has been great, but when you outsource, these types of things, there's variables there that wouldn't exist if we're able to do those things ourselves, such as the timeliness. Of course, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, they have their own cases. They have a plethora of cases, a ton of things that they're investigating. And sometimes the outside agencies that they assist kind of take back seat. I mean, it is what it is. And also, when we use their services, it costs us as a city to have the Sheriff's Office conduct those digital forensic examinations of the devices for us. Next slide. So there's all types of digital forensic equipment. And I think if DC Morgan is there, I prepared a list of the devices that we're going to ask for and their uses and exactly what we use those for. But you have things like mobile device extraction tools like Cellbrite, which you'll see is one of the tools that we're asking for. Computer forensic workstations, that's another thing that we're asking for. But there are certain things that we employ now, and we just want to couple these things with the tools that we're asking for, such as network intrusion and log analysis tools. We use some of those now. Cloud extraction and warrant returning processing platforms. We use those now, and secure evidence storage and chain of custody systems. If we can get all of these put together, it'll increase our effectiveness tremendously when we start talking about investigating not only technology facilitated crimes, but also crimes like controlled substance homicides and drug selling and buying and things like that. Next slide, please. So specifically digital forensics and fentanyl investigations, it helps us, and not just in fentanyl investigations, this holds true with other types of investigations too, but it's great for tracing networks and communications between people, identifying suppliers and couriers, social media dealers and other platforms like dark media dealing, recovering deleted messages and metadata, which is extremely important in those controlled substance homicide investigations, which we have had a couple of those. And if you have questions about exactly what that is, I can explain that at the end of the presentation. mapping financial transaction and digital payments when it comes to drug selling and buying, and connecting overdose events and criminal suppliers, which is what I was talking about the controlled substance homicide investigations. Next slide, please. So again, there's some advantages, and I kind of mentioned this before. Some other advantages, that is that it reveals intent through check logs and digital footprints. Of course, we have you have to prove certain elements of a crime, and intent is often one of those elements that you have to prove. Build stronger conspiracy in trafficking and trafficking cases, which are sometimes those bigger cases that we encounter, which we have had some of those, and we have assisted our neighboring agencies and partners with those. Again, important links to overdose deaths and the source of those dealers. Where are these people getting these drugs from? Unfortunately, if they pass away. And creates and this is super important for me, and I mentioned this before, the timeliness and the action that the information that we get. We don't have to wait. We get that information, we can act on it, and that's super important in investigations, timeliness. Next slide, please. And another thing that is we don't think about often is the deterrent element of being able to do those things ourselves. Dealers and people who supply drugs, they aren't stupid. They understand where they can operate safely and where they can't. And people, also users. And so when people realize, it's kind of like our flock cameras. We saw, a kind of a reduction in stolen vehicles and other things coming through our city once those cameras were up for a while. I think of the, digital forensic tools as the same thing. When people recognize that as a department, their investigators, they're top notch, they're able to work cases, people are getting arrested and the prosecution and prosecuted for these, and dealers recognize this. There's the increased probability for detection. When we have the ability to rapidly analyze things, it shortens our investigative times. And I mentioned that before, timeliness. And it helps us identify those and target those distribution hubs and those people who are selling the drugs to people in our community and outside our community, people who are coming to our community. One of the things that we see often are people who may not live within the city of Liberty Lake, but for some reason they end up in the city of Liberty Lake, and we contact them because they've overdosed in a vehicle. And so I know they don't live in Liberty Lake, but that if the overdose happens within the city, that's our problem, and we're able to investigate those appropriately. Next slide. So how do we build a a digital ready police agency? We have to get the tools to do so. We have to be able to have the digital forensic tools and those software licenses to help us do this effectively. Part of that is, and we're making a move towards accreditation right now, is making sure that we create clear and digital evidence policies. We're on top of that. And also making sure our staff is trained and certified to use those digital forensics. We're super fortunate now because we do have the staff that's already certified to use these tools, especially our crime analyst right now is already certified to use every one of these tools. So we have the staff that's trained and ready to use it. We just need the tools to do so. Next slide. So in conclusion, digital forensics is essential for not only investigating, and I'm saying fentanyl here because specifically we're using that, we want to use that opioid abatement money for this, but it will branch out beyond fentanyl. Like I said, internet crimes against children investigations, other technology facilitated investigations, financial crime investigations. There's so many uses that we can use this for, digital forensic equipment for. And this equipment will strengthen our investigations and deter crime, hopefully. And digital, it'll enable our force to save lives and disrupt those distribution networks and hopefully deter some of the fentanyl use and those overdoses in our community. And I'll take any questions.
Great, thanks, Chief. I'll turn it over for questions. Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Chief. Always good information. Question, I heard you say that we have present staff that can handle all that additional work. Is that correct?
Yes. And and Councilmember Kennedy, it's not really additional work. The work is there. What it will do is just, typically we have to analyze that data and that evidence anyways. There's just one step now that we have to take. We get to do it ourselves instead of driving 27 miles to Spokane to drop the equipment off, waiting 6 weeks, driving 27 miles to Spokane to pick it up, and then bringing it back and analyzing the results of that data. And so there's not much more work for us other than we don't have to, a 44-mile or 50-mile round trip and a couple of weeks wait to obtain the evidence to analyze for those cases.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Chief, I have a couple of questions here. The opioid abatement settlements. As you were talking, I looked up the definition of abatement, and it was the ending, reduction, or lessening of something. And I don't have any doubt that what you're talking about here certainly helps on the backside. I'm wondering if it helps on the front side. And what I mean by that is that it seems as if what you're proposing here is more about the enforcement after someone distributes or does something with the fentanyl. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're on the right track there, but I think you're missing the front end of that is if we can identify individuals who are actually dealing, especially within our community, because I don't want anyone to think that there's not anyone within our community that's dealing fentanyl. There is. And and I can't get into the intelligence on that, but there is. And so if we can, unfortunately, there are going to be people who overdose. There are going to be people that we come in contact with who possess fentanyl. And if we can use those contacts and that evidence that we obtained in those investigations to identify the people who are dealing and supplying, we can arrest those people. What that does is it cuts that drug off at that level. You take the head off of the beast. And ultimately, that's what we're looking at. We're looking to cut the head off of the snake. We're starting at the tail, but ultimately, we're looking at cutting the head off of the snake. So, of course, yes, some of this is going to be reactive at first, but the proactive part of that is identifying the source. And that's with any drug investigation at any level. You're looking for the source. And that source, if you can cut off that source, then you're disrupting the supply. If we disrupt the supply, then we are doing just that. We are addressing that at a level where hopefully we're stopping those drugs from coming within our community.
Okay. And then I guess my follow-up question was, what are some of the other, if you know, maybe you don't know the answer to this, what are some of the other communities doing with their funding?
So, well, you want to be honest? I've heard departments locally who are buying vehicles. I've heard a lot of things other than, well, that will really raise the question that you just asked. How is that going to help deter, the flooding of fentanyl into our communities? I really haven't heard or spoken with anyone who has come up with any programs or anything like that. But like I said, I've talked to a couple agencies. I know they're buying vehicles. I've heard some agencies, local agencies, who has given up that money to the county because they didn't know what to do with it. I really haven't heard anything that's even similar to what we're proposing, or on the other side, as far as, we're developing this program or we're partnering with this community group, or I haven't heard anything of the such.
Great. The reason for my question, and maybe Mark has an answer as well, is if there's something other communities are doing that we should think about as well, in addition to what the chief is proposing, but it sounds like there aren't.
So the council a while back saw fit to appoint me as the city's representative on the county's opioid abatement council. And so through that process, what I've come to learn about some of the other jurisdictions is a couple of things. The smaller cities, their funding is such where individually they can't do much with it. So you get a lot of cities who have chosen to basically replenish Narcan supplies. That's a common use for smaller cities. Other smaller cities are pooling it together to create treatment and education programs. That's a common use of it. Spokane County is probably the largest single recipient outside of the city of Spokane in the county. And Spokane County is using its funding to create basically a database to target hotspots so that they can program treatment programs and educational outreach, both in educational institutions and among neighborhood councils with healthcare providers and so forth. And so when you remember some of the comments that Chud and the group that was just here made, those are the kinds of things that help establish those accountability measures that they were speaking of. But there's not a single use. What I can say to answer your earlier question is the uses of these funds are dictated and defined by the One Washington MOU, and law enforcement activities are a authorized use of these funds. So.
Next question, Councilmember Kurtz.
I have a couple questions, and then I had some of the same thoughts that Mayor Pro Tem had about like coming in at the tail end with the investigations, but then I also felt like during the presentation, you talked a little bit about disrupting things, which I do think is a part of the prevention. And I don't know that I have any issue with what's being proposed in here. I think I have questions about whether to use this particular fund for it or just put it in the budget, since we're in that process already. Because as we heard from the group that was just here presenting the treatment first model, I think that there potentially could be some ways that we could use the abatement for opioid funds to look at supporting that sort of an effort, a treatment first type of model. I don't have a plan for that, but it just kind of seems to come full circle with what we were just talking about. And then, Chief, my other question for you would be, as we're talking about accountability tonight in a couple of different ways, one of the things that I have questions about is you guys get this new equipment and you guys are really great at investigations and you find all these people and you arrest them. Do we have the jail space? Do we have the prosecutors? Do we have the public defenders, given that there's some flux with that? To actually hold the people accountable. And so I'm just wondering if we need to be thinking about some of those things too, but I wanted to hear your thoughts.
All right, thank you. Great question. This doesn't change the amount of investigations that we have. We have those investigations already. What this does is it gives us the ability to do the forensics ourselves instead of outsourcing all of the digital forensics that we have, not just in fentanyl investigations, but overall. To do those digital forensic examinations ourselves instead of giving those to the sheriff's office. And again, the timeliness, the waiting game. There's other evidentiary things that I didn't mention. The fear that, especially with digital evidence, when you transport digital evidence, we take that out of our evidence facility, you put it in a vehicle. I've seen this before when I worked child technology facilitated crimes against children investigation with my partner, transferring some digital evidence to a federal agency for examination because our digital forensic tech was inundated with cases, and something happened in transit. Something happened, I guess, via static electricity or something weird, and it wiped the thumb drive. And so while he was in transit, so he lost all of his evidence on the thumb drive. And so, without getting into all of that, if we have the ability to take a computer from our evidence facility straight into the detective's office, do the digital forensic examination there, to me, it's a safer process, number one. Number two, we know how it's done in-house. We can testify to that. Again, we don't have to wait 6-8 weeks because they're backlogged at county forensics with other cases that take precedence over ours. You know, I think we're more proficient with our investigations if we do it ourselves. Again, this doesn't increase the amount of cases that we have. The cases are there. It doesn't take us from 100 cases to 150 cases because we're finding more people. We're finding the people anyways. It's still 100 cases. It's still 125 cases. It doesn't increase the number of arrests that we have just because we get this. Because again, those investigations are taking place. We're just having someone else do the digital forensics. And then lastly, I understand the accountability piece, and I love, you know, and I work closely with the Hutton Settlement when I was at the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, especially when I was a school resource officer. I love it. Great presentation, great idea. But again, if you had a leak in a dam, you can mop up the water downstream all you want, but until you plug that hole in the dam, you're still going to get water downstream. And that's what drug dealers are. They're the hole in the dam. That's what the cartel, they're the hole in the dam. We can put people in, and this is my opinion, we can put people in facilities and treatment, but there are going to be others who are introduced to those drugs because those drugs are still coming in and people are still selling them. If the drugs are still hitting the streets, I mean, it doesn't do much for accountability if the drugs are still there. I love that piece again, but again, you know, you have to cut the head off of the beast, off of the snake, and that's exactly what this is. It helps us identify the small drug dealers, the large drug dealers. You got to understand that sometimes these cases, and we've handed them off to our federal partners and partners in other jurisdictions because sometimes things are bigger than you. And especially when the things that you get when you examine a phone or a computer, and you know, we're not talking just about your drug dealer on the corner. Sometimes these things lead to much more massive investigations, you know, we just want the ability to be able to get the evidence in a timely manner to put these investigations wherever, or take these investigations wherever they need to go.
Good, Councilmember Kurtz.
And I fully support the ask. I think my only question for the group here is, it feels like this is an ask to help support efficiency of our police department today, which feels like a regular budgetary ask to me. Not saying we shouldn't use the MOU funds, but I'm just wondering if, thinking ahead to some of the other things that we've heard tonight, if we might want to reserve those funds potentially for something like that.
So before I go to any other questions, I've got a question for Kyle related to that. So and Mark too, remind me, we also have the dedicated funds from the sales tax from the state for homelessness, right?
Yeah, so that is correct. So as of today, our total collected since the opioid settlement started coming in is 66,000 as of today.
No, I'm talking about
And then affordable and supportive housing,
That's what I'm-
as of today, we're at 79,000.
So there's that we do have separate funds that we've been waiting to figure out what to do with, which would help toward the MOU we talked about. So just to have everybody have that information fresh. But Councilmember Spencer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for the presentation. I loved at the outset that you talked about the fact that this was an effort to keep the funds local, because I was concerned about these funds going to some pot somewhere and get frittered away. And I agree also, rather than throwing money at the symptoms of the problem, you know, loading up on Narcan, this is going to help us to you know, get to the heart of the problem, the root cause of the issue, and I fully support this.
Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah, I also really appreciate the chief assembling this in the name of the utility of the fund. I think what you brought together as potential expenses here are aligned directly to what the fund was intended to support, and I think it's an appropriate use of the dollars. So thanks.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Good discussion, Chief. I got a question for you. In the past, periodically, we've talked about the possibility maybe the city gets to the point where we would actually need a jail to retain prisoners here before they're shipped down, or maybe a court or something like that. Do you envision in maybe the next 3 to 5 years that as crime continues to grow and gets closer and closer to Liberty Lake, that we could actually be looking at the possibility of needing a jail here or some sort of a court?
A jail, I would caution the city in today's landscape.
I'm sorry, holding cell. I'm sorry.
Oh, a holding cell. Oh, okay. Well, I thought you meant like a full-fledged jail. No, and there are smaller cities in the state that have jails. A lot of issues right now with jails and municipal police departments right now throughout the state. And so, you know, that I wouldn't recommend that, at least right now. As far as a holding cell, you're looking at some of the same requirements that you're going to have with a jail. And so I would have to do the research on that completely, but I have asked about that, and you're looking at many of the same requirements that you would need as far as a jail, if it is a real holding facility that where you're going to hold someone. It's basically a correctional facility, if I'm not mistaken. A city court, I think, would benefit the city not only from a criminal justice standpoint, but from a planning, engineering, and building standpoint, with the code enforcement, with permitting, and everything else that city courts partake in. I think it would be extremely beneficial. I think when it comes to cost recovery, especially from a criminal justice standpoint, when we start talking about traffic fine revenue and things like that, and also misdemeanor revenue, I think that it would be great if the city would retain all of that funding or a majority of that funding. I think it will be extremely beneficial to the city. So I could see a city court being extremely beneficial to the city in the near future.
But nothing relating to things like the drugs and stuff like that. You're talking.
Well, drugs or they're
minor.
gross misdemeanors now. So as long as they
yeah.
remain gross misdemeanors, and we would write those into our city court.
So
I think that go ahead.
just to expand on the chief's answer there, the master facilities plan that you heard a couple of meetings ago contemplates the potential for a municipal court space to be part of that future planning.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the input on that. Why I bring that up is I think it's important for the council moving forward that in a relatively short period of time, all of that comes back to public safety. And it takes money to do that. And we have to really anticipate what is our cost going to be and where is it going to come from? Thank you.
Okay, I think we haven't heard from Councilmember Ball this round, so I'll go to you in case you have anything.
Well, I had to think about this, but I definitely want to do something with that money because it's been allocated to us, and I don't want to see it go outside of the city. And I really, after that presentation I saw on fentanyl, I just, it's a horrible problem. So I think I would support this proposal.
All right, so again, we're workshop, it'll come back later. Did you have another question, Councilmember Purchase?
The number one, the Celebrate UFED and Premium Services is a subscription-based service. And it looks like the quote's only good through August 20th, 2025. So just wanting to check to see if that's the same cost that we would anticipate yearly then, the 22,000 plus.
Yeah, we have updated quotes for all of those. I think those are the updated quotes. I don't know if Sergeant Bowman, when he prepared that document, the verbiage in that document, if he updated the dates of the quotes, but I have updated quotes on all. And also the price that's on the request that's currently in Civic Plus is incorrect. So I'll have to adjust that. It's about $20,000 cheaper. So I think it's that 47 that you see there is the correct. Yeah.
So, Councilmember Kurtz, if you were thinking ahead, the reason that we've proposed using the opioid abatement fund, other than what we've already briefed, is because with the startup cost that you're seeing here and the ongoing cost that is subsequent to that, we get essentially 2 years of this program with the opioid abatement funds, and then it would have to be rolled into the operating budget.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, any other questions before we move on? All right, thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Legislative priorities.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Late last week, maybe I emailed you an updated version that was based on our discussion at the November 3rd meeting. You also have a printout in front of you if that makes it easier to use a hard copy. And this essentially contains all of those suggestions that came from the workshop on November the 3rd. It also adds, as Councilmember Kurtz pointed out during that discussion, querying the department heads as to what they may recommend adding. That item has been added as number 1. These have also been renumbered to make them flow a little bit easier. We also have a suggested add that has emerged in the last day or two that is not on here that we can discuss at some point. But with that, I just want to open the floor for any questions, comments, or suggested edits to this version that you see in front of you. And again, I'll remind the council that we're going into a short session, a 60-day session. So.
So everybody jump at once. Are there any questions or changes to the draft?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Well, I was really pleased to see 7F and G because I think that'll help things move along a lot better with traffic, especially, you know, the E, F, and G, yeah, together.
Okay, we got some numbering questions here.
Yeah, these got, we'll fix that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 10 and then back to 5 on the back side. So
It just didn't pick up the numbering. We'll fix all of that.
Okay.
They'll be sequential on the final version.
thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, not hearing any?
And so if I can read off the proposed addition that was a latecomer. So it would be in the public safety and well-being section, and it would read, oppose legislation limiting local law enforcement's ability or capacity to utilize license plate reader technology.
Read that again.
Yeah.
Oppose legislation limiting local law enforcement's ability or capacity to utilize license plate reader technology.
Okay. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. All right,
Questions
Sure.
or comments?
well, that's what I was asking. Go ahead.
And for what purpose is this suggestion being made to try and track down immigrants? That's what it sounds like.
The city of Liberty Lake does not enforce federal immigration law. We do, however, and I don't know if Chief is still on here and wants to talk about the breadth of application of and Flock is a brand. So we're going to refer to Flock because that's the brand that we have, but we're talking about all license plate reader technology. These are huge crime deterrents. And I'll remind the council that 2 years ago, Deputy Chief, if you want to update my date there, we were able to contribute to the apprehension of a homicide suspect in Airway Heights from Tacoma using our Flock system. And so if you want to add any details to that or just Flock in general, go for it.
Oh, the Flock system in general has been something that has been huge for us as our department. Though we've stopped. I mean, the day they went into place, we ended up getting a couple stolen vehicles just out of that day. We've had several homicide suspects that have been caught. 2 that I can think of. One from Airway Heights that Mark was talking about specifically. They had another one that was cut from that came in from the Montana area. We ended up catching during the Flock, using the Flock system. It's a great tool for us in order to use even for the minor crimes. Is like if we have a vehicle that's been used in several burglaries or in large cases or whatever the case may be, we can put that information into the systems, and automatically that vehicle will pop up, and we'll be able to grab a suspect off it just by getting that information into the Flock system. And being connected with everybody is the biggest thing too, from all the other agencies. So every agency that has a Flock system that puts input into the system, if they have a burglary that's happening out at Airway Heights for several different reasons, and they're looking for a vehicle, they plop it into the system, just happens to come through Liberty Lake, we're able to get that vehicle and solve another case for them. So it's been imperative for all those different cases.
correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume the ask for this is because there has been discussion about limiting the use of that, not just for, and I think we had, the chief or deputy chief addressed this in a not so recent meeting. Those agencies don't have access, the agencies that are of concern
Correct.
don't have access to our system. But I think the concern is at the state level is that there might be legislation coming to try to limit that use. And I'll speak on the personal front as a woman who is a victim of domestic violence and a no contact order with an estranged spouse who violated that no contact order. The courts were able to prove that he was in the order and in the area and to prove that he was in the area and violated the distance on that. So it can be minor things like that all the way up to the homicides. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
The main reason this is coming up now, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's been a judge who has ruled that the images are public images. A judge from, I think it was Cedro Woolley or something. And so
Skagit County.
Skagit County.
Skagit County.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is that part of the reason this is coming up?
We anticipate legislation being introduced to chip away local law enforcement's ability to use license plate reader technology, period. We're anticipating that in the forthcoming or the coming session. And it could be subsequent action to those rulings, but that's what we're anticipating.
May I build on that, Mark, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
So there's two different bills that are going to be on the floor this legislative session. One, the goal of that bill is to eliminate the use of LPR technology by law enforcement, period. And the second has many parts, but one of the parts that's the most concerning for law enforcement is it reduces the retention period for the data obtained via LPR to 72 hours. Now, from an investigative standpoint, that is almost useless. Imagine a crime occurring on a Friday and your detectives aren't back until Monday. Your 72 hours is gone. The time that it takes most investigators to even get a case, if it's not a critical incident, sometimes is 4 or 5 days to a week or more before a case is assigned to a detective. So reducing that retention period to 72 hours makes that data almost useless. And lastly, in response to the Skagit County ruling, one of the main concerns about that ruling, and the mayor mentioned it before, is domestic violence. Imagine people being able to use a public records request as a tool to stalk former spouses, estranged spouses, girlfriends, or even strangers. If they get a license plate number, they do a public records request on the data. Now they can track your everyday movement over a period of time. Imagine how dangerous that could be for victims. And so, yeah, there's a lot of issues coming down as far as either reducing retention periods or just eliminating the use for that. And again, I want to remind council that we constantly monitor our system to make sure that we don't have any of those individual agencies on our system who enforce immigration laws, because of course in the state of Washington we can't do that.
And so we would be looking for consensus from the council to add that to the priority list. It's the council's decision whether to do that or not.
Is there anybody opposed to that?
Can you read it again?
Yes.
Please.
Give me a second. Sorry, I had to look at my text. Oppose legislation limiting local law enforcement's ability or capacity to utilize license plate reader technology.
I don't know.
Make a motion.
We can to make it official.
I'll move that we add that to the legislative priorities.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion passes 6, 5-1. I'm not used to not having 7 here yet. Councilmember Dunn.
I'd like to introduce, AWC has identified that the current session, Joint Transportation Committee will be evaluating a sidewalk utility. This right now, cities and towns have no funding mechanism to impose fees in support of sidewalks. I think that we've as a council been introduced to a coming crisis for our community related to being able to actually perform repairs. And so I'd like to speak in support of that as a legislative priority. A statement to that effect, Mark, I guess I'd ask you to kind of consider in draft or consider what AWC offers in suggestion. Keyword is sidewalk utility.
And just to follow up on that, there's AWC has currently circulated a questionnaire, a survey that we have participated in. So they're gathering data on this from cities across the state.
Great.
So we can form up some language and introduce that in the final version that we bring back on December 2nd for adoption.
Cool. Thanks.
Based on the AWC language.
I think Councilmember Spencer, then Councilmember Kurt.
Well, just on that same topic, I know when we had the discussion a few weeks back, from a standpoint of getting grant funding and that sort of thing, it sounded like it was going to be pretty, we'd be a pretty low priority city for receiving those sorts of funds. So I'm fine with adding something like that. The likelihood of it leading to us getting funds as a city for sidewalks, I think is going to be pretty low.
I think it's actually, though, a program that would give us another tool to raise funds, not necessarily grants from the meetings that I've been in. Councilmember Kurtz, and then
Mark, it sounded like the other addition was the quality of life and connectedness #1. Is that the one that was added by city staff?
That is correct.
Can you give a little bit of history of that and what the intent is with it?
Yeah, so similar to what we just reviewed with the license plate reader technology, we're aware of a couple of bills that will be introduced that seek to essentially countermand the Supreme Court's decision in Grants Pass versus Oregon. You heard Sheldon speak of the City of Spokane ordinance that passed. We have our own unlawful camping ordinance. And so really what this is designed to do is just say we want to support creating or preserving statutory protections for public spaces against unlawful camping. We chose that word specifically because in our case, we've defined unlawful camping in a way that may be different from another municipality or jurisdiction. And so we're interested in being able to preserve our own ordinance and enforce it the way that it was intended based upon the council's adoption of that back in 2023, I believe it was.
So it's a little bit more about local control over what we wanted to say. Is that the gist of it?
It's about preserving the statutory protections at the state level that allow municipalities to enforce their own ordinances that they've passed is essentially what we're saying we want to support.
okay, and I think we have Mayor Pro Tem,
No.
unless you change your mind. Okay. All right, anybody else on legislative priorities? Okay, not hearing any. All right, we do have 2026 budget. We're planning to go through the community development section. Just keep in mind, it is 8:23. We have other business, so suggest we kind of go through that. And unfortunately, I walked out of the house without my budget binder, so somebody else is going to have to manage the page numbers. as we
So,
go through.
Community development budget begins on page 66. And, oh, okay.
We'll get there. Give everybody just a moment.
So what page then?
65.
65.
65, it sounds like.
So first, I want to thank the mayor and council for accommodating my schedule. I was out of town dealing with the family responsibilities. So I really appreciate your accommodating me on that. And I frankly was shocked that you got past my budget because in all the years I've been here, I've always been the second budget workshop of the year. Having said that, a couple things. So community development basically encompasses 4 programs. Long-range planning and land use actions and divisions are most aligned with our priority, our priorities here with the city, and code enforcement and permitting are more aligned. One of the things that I want to point out to y'all is that we are only proposing a 3% increase total for the community development budget this year. And I want to remind you all that one of the unique situations that we have, while we are still general fund, so we're not an enterprise fund per se, but we do fully, we have full cost recovery for all of the services that we provide. And just to give you, we're projecting permit fees and revenues of $1.74 million in 2026. And with the comp plan and climate grants that we have, which are covering some of our capital costs for planning studies, we have another 285,600 and change coming in grant funds. So we have totally covered our nut, as it were, with the revenues that we bring in. With that, one of the other things that I'm really pleased about, and it's been, it's unusual for me to be able to say this, but going into this budget year, I'm fully staffed, which has been an uncommon circumstance in the last several years. So anyhow, with that, I really stand for questions. I'm happy to provide you with any detail you like on the individual line items.
Any questions for Lisa? Councilmember Spencer?
Yeah, Lisa, could you help all the other departments figure out how to get fully cost recovered? That's just awesome. Just kidding.
Yes.
What's a CBO certificate or certification, CBO?
So it's the building official certification, a certified building official.
Oh, okay.
And what that does is it affects our ratings as it relates to building and fire code, and it results in a savings in insurance. When we can increase our rating in that area, it reduces insurance, not just for the city, but also for city residents. So it is a lot of work to get certified as a certified building official certificate, but it's also very beneficial to the community.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Lisa?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lisa. All right, we are, do you have more on budget stuff? Or was that the only one we were going to cover in that section?
So that was the only remaining department that we wanted to give council an opportunity to discuss and ask questions of the head. And so now we have gone through a complete review of the budget and then would recommend opening the floor for any further discussion. And then Kyle has some information that he's going to share as well.
And real quick, Kyle, you may be actually, why don't you go ahead, because you're probably going to cover this.
So one of the things that we talked about kind of as we were wrapping up during our last meeting was there was asked to bring back some specific detail regarding the full-time employee that's contemplated in golf operations. And so I reached out to Chris Johnson, our head pro, to give us a little bit more information on some of the cost recovery specifically involved in that, and just some additional information for council to consider. And so the FTE that is proposed, and I'll update this in the salary schedule along with, we have later tonight, we have the leadership agreements for the PD. That'll fully populate the salary schedule that is included in our adopting ordinance. We are going to reduce the part-time employee count by 1. And so this is in effect it's meeting the increased demand at the facility. It's also reducing that one part-time staff in the salary schedule as well. So not only that, it's so the outcomes that Chris expects from this additional full-time golf pro is additional revenue through driving range revenue, merchandising, and then specifically programming through the golf simulators, added events and leagues with the added capacity. And he did note that, so revenues are obviously an indicator of activity, and the revenues have essentially doubled over the last like 4 years. And we last brought on staff in 2022 at the golf course. So really this is trying to meet the demand that is largely already there. And so that we're not turning people away from lessons. And so I obviously, I think we're all aware the majority of the lesson revenue stays with the golf pro, but that does generate additional revenue that I just mentioned through the additional driving range activity, merchandise. So what happens is there's club fittings that go along with that. That's additional revenue for the golf course. All the additional merchandise from those increased trips into the pro shop, and then programming through the golf simulator leagues, specifically in the off season. And so all of those lead up to what I'm comfortable saying is full cost recovery. That won't bear out until we have data to essentially prove that.
Any questions on that?
And then we'll bring back updated summary sheets between now, obviously in the second read. Obviously we have to update legislative to account for the 7% increase that the salary commission adopted, as well as executive for the mayors. So we'll be bringing back some updated sheets to y'all as well on those.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem.
Kyle or Mark, one of the questions I had asked at the last meeting was if we could get a list of like 5 or 10 different things that you might recommend if we needed to chop. Is there anything that you can add on that account?
Yes, and we discussed that at length. Really where we landed is that we believe that we submitted a viable budget with the things in it that allow for us to meet the mission objectives that are set out in the strategic plan, the comp plan, and other things. And so I don't want to put our department heads in a situation where they're now jockeying against each other to strip things out of a viable budget. And so we would encourage the council to ask questions or make proposals to adjust anything that you may find questionable in the budget versus us somewhat arbitrarily bringing back proposed cuts.
Go ahead.
So here's my concern. Obviously I'm not on any page yet. Obviously there's lots of different items in all these different funds. My main concern is the bottom line number. And so when I go back, for instance, and just look at the general fund, we went from 12.9 to 17.3, and this budget is going to be 19.9 million.
What page are you on?
This is just the summary page, which is page 31. So I mean, since just in the past 2 years, since 2024, we're talking about essentially about a 50% increase in the budget. And while I see that we can pay for that now, my concern is whether we can pay for that continuing into the future. And so it's not a question, it's just a comment about the huge increases that we've seen over the past 2 years. And a lot of that is centered on public safety, obviously. I understand that fully. But there are other things as well in here that we're talking about as well.
No, I would just, in response, just caution everybody, the difference between the general fund budget and the total budget, because budgets from year to year vary very drastically from year to year based on capital projects, beginning and ending fund balances in those special funds. So it's, the operating general fund budget that you need to pay the most attention to. I mean, obviously, it's all important. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but with regards to sustainability, the general fund is really where the focus.
Yeah,
needs to
that's
be.
what I
Yeah,
was pointing
right.
to.
Yeah, but I just wanted.
Yeah.
And so,
Public,
yeah.
so they understand what we're looking at.
Yeah, public safety is a large part of that. Cash funding our capital improvements is also a much larger part of that too. And so I think we'll continue to have the discussion on what direction the city wants to go in our strategy and funding those into the future.
Can I ask one more question? I may have counted incorrectly, but as I went through all the different departments, it looked to me that there were 6 or 5, I can't remember which one, different new computer softwares that we're purchasing for next year, whether that be police, timekeeping, Placer AI, and a couple of other ones as well. But is that accurate? I mean,
Mr. AI is not new, though. Well,
So that number is probably accurate to the mayor's point. Placer AI is showing up in the budget in 26 for the first time. The purchase was authorized in 25 using funds that weren't spent on something else, but it's showing up in the budget for the first time in 26. But there's the time and attendance software, which isn't a net new system. It's a replacement of an existing. And there are a couple of others in there.
Right. So that you'll see a higher upfront cost for that in 2026, with that being less going forward. But to that point, we haven't identified exactly what that is. We'll bring that back once we have a recommendation in place. And so obviously with Public Works being relatively new, obviously we're bringing on softwares that can harness data that we haven't yet before. And so we're just trying to strategically position our staff to make those data-driven decisions going forward, and hopefully those bear out in our conversations with council going forward.
And just one quick example, you'll see, I think we settled on the January 20th meeting, but we'll be bringing a workshop forward to talk about the pavement master plan, and that in large part will be informed by the data that was collected, and that we will continue to have access to use and manipulate in ways that allow us to plan better for future road projects. And so that system alone, and I can't remember the price tag on it, will pay dividends as early as next year, and will pay for itself multiple times over as we go through that process. And the plan is for all of them to do that. It's going to be a different return on investment for each one, but the goal is for all of them to yield more to the city than it costs to implement them.
Councilmember Ball.
Well, since we're on the topic, yeah, and I had talked to Kyle about this. I too have a bit of a problem with all the money we spend on software, but on this Placer AI in particular, okay, so we're paying $20,000 for it, is that right?
17,000.
Oh, so, okay. So if this is the replacement for, is it GSI, right?
Part of GSI.
Yeah. Here's a real world example. Last week, it was in the paper, I'm sure everybody knows, the Valley is getting a Trader Joe's. Now, why didn't it come here? I mean, it obviously GSI wasn't going to do us any good for that. And Placer AI, I mean, I understand what it is. It's gathering data, but is there a human being that is on staff that has their radar up for opportunities like this? Like, why didn't we get Trader Joe's? Now, I understand their model a lot of the times is to use, or maybe all the time, existing buildings and doll them up, revamp them. I mean, surely there's got to be something that we could have done. In other words, is software going to help us attract a business like that? That's what we need. That was, I was astounded that they got it.
Well, and so to directly answer the question, we do not have an economic development staff person.
Right, I know.
And I also want to remind the council that Placer AI wasn't a replacement for GSI. We talked about using essentially the offset of that non-expense to forge a different strategy. And so the answer that I would offer is that strategy is going to allow us to, at some point, put ourselves in position to be more attractive, and using that data to help our existing business communities thrive more is what that is targeted to do, not necessarily prospect for new businesses, although that could be part of it. That doesn't mean we couldn't develop a prospecting strategy, but Placer is not that. That's not why we proposed implementing it.
And it's also hard to know. You never know. Trader Joe's could be talking to somebody for all we know. That's between them and a developer. We could, huh?
It's in the old shop code.
No, but if Trader Joe's is looking for a place, that's between them and a developer, not them and the city, unless they're looking to buy city property. So we don't get involved at this point really, because we don't have an economic development person in recruiting businesses like that. Doesn't mean we might not in the future,
Right.
but there are so many nuances when businesses are choosing where to do business that we're not privy to, and we may not even find out until the building permits put in. We've got a new nail salon coming. The only reason I know about that is because I go to the guy who's opening the new nail salon, and he told me, I'm sure we could probably got a building permit, but those things happen all the time. People aren't necessarily knocking down the city's door to say, hey, we want to deal with you. They deal with the developers, not us.
Where's the new nail salon gonna be?
In front of
Curious.
in front of Home Depot.
So all of what I would say is all of the software packages that have been proposed and or purchased are designed to be force multipliers. Council will have to determine over time if that multiplier is enough to continue investing, and it's up to us to bring you that proof. And so that's what we'll be doing. But we need time to build that evidence in some cases, and then certainly in the ones that aren't even implemented yet.
Councilmember Kennedy, and if we could, maybe wrap up the budget in the next 3 or 4 minutes, because we still have stuff to finish. Go ahead, Councilmember Kennedy.
I will hold my comments then.
You sure? Okay,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
okay.
That's just one.
Yeah.
part. I just was wanting to know sort of our next steps, like what we've done. I saw that this was the final hearing, so will the budget be on the next agenda other than an ordinance, or what would be the next steps for passing it?
So looking at our, I'll pull out our workshops in advance here. So we had scheduled for next Monday, the governor's manual / budget as needed, and then a budget workshop on the 2nd. My suggestion is going to be maybe flip-flop those, 24th designated to budget, and if there's time left, the governance manual, and then the governance manual on the 2nd. That will give us a good block of time, or give you guys a good block of time on the 24th to get through any further questions, suggestions for changes, things like that, so that when we come to the next regular meeting, that you guys can move forward with it.
But I think my question is, are there a lot more questions that we have about the budget? Anybody?
That's what I'm hoping, that we can get through that on the 24th. I think we had Councilmember Kennedy first, then Councilmember
Okay,
Spencer.
if we do switch that to 24th, that still leaves opportunities for any additional questions having to do with anything to do with the budget.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, well, the comment I wanted to make, going back to Mayor Pro Tem's question on, was there a discussion about, if we are going to look at making some cuts to the proposed budget, is because this is the way I interpreted the question from the last meeting was, we'd rather have you guys tell us what what's gonna go on the chopping block rather than, we did talk about, you've got the 2.7 COLA, and an additional 3% across the board. And so we don't know which departments are in a deficit from a standpoint of catching up with local neighbors. And we did find out that in Public Works that there was a greater need in one specific area. So so my hope was that you did come back with something so that we could say, all right, let's look at priorities, because otherwise, if we come back and say, well, we're not comfortable with the full 3%, let's go 1.5% across the board. And that leaves you guys hamstrung, especially Public Works, for instance, because they felt like there was a greater need, that there was some attrition taking place in their department because they were lagging. So from my standpoint, just listening to the conversation, again, my hope was that you had come back with something. That doesn't necessarily mean we are going to make that cut, but if the council decides to make cuts, it is going to be arbitrary, because we're just going to be looking at numbers.
Can I make a couple points? First point, that question came very late in the meeting. It was not motioned and it wasn't seconded and it wasn't asked by the entire council. I will point that out. Second, Mark already said earlier in the meeting that the staff has presented a viable budget with what they need to meet the criteria of what this council has set as goals. So to ask them to go back, I think it is very disingenuous. Third, I'm very frustrated because this is the second year in a row we have sat through a long meeting, gone through all the line items with no discussion on things like this. I said at the beginning of the last meeting, if you have questions, if you have things you want to cut, now is the time, as we're going through line by line to do this. And now we go through the whole thing and it feels like we're starting again where these things should have been discussed as we're going through. Not that there's not more opportunity to do so, but it's frustrating, I'm sure, for not just for me, but for the staff too, to go sit through all of that. We answer all the questions and then there's no, okay, well, maybe we need to cut this, maybe we need to do this along the way, so that when we get to the workshop on the 2nd, we're digging into those requests much more deeper and we're ready to go through it. But Councilmember Kennedy.
I want to make a comment that staff is well prepared and puts a lot of time and effort months in advance before it ever gets to the council. The council's absolute main priority over anything else is the budget. Everything else is secondary, what we deal with. Secondary, the budget is that, and have a total understanding of that. In years past, we've had 4 or 5 separate meetings just going over the items, because what happens from meeting to meeting, a council member starts thinking about it, says, well, hold on, I've got a question, and you don't get an opportunity until a week later to ask that question. So sometimes I feel that we're being pushed, that hold it, we put all this work into this. This is it, this is the final. Why are you questioning this?
Amen.
That bothers me if that is the direction. Now, the question that I had earlier, and you confirmed, is that if we change on the meeting of the 24th, what date are we proposing? Is that December 8th to vote on the budget?
Kyle,
Final
you've got
budget?
that calendar
Yes,
Okay,
prior to council appointment.
correct.
so we know we have at least one more meeting where we can put adequate time for any council member or staff who wants to ask any additional questions.
Yep.
Or something that has come up from the past.
Yep.
Okay, and granted, I sympathize with staff that goes through this, but it's part of the process.
And if I can answer Councilmember Spencer's question and relate it back to the answer that I provided to Mayor Pro Tem, what I should have included in that answer, Mayor Pro Tem, was we're prepared to discuss the impact of any change that you want to discuss. We believe that what we've provided to you is the budget that will achieve those mission objectives. If you have some concerns about specific programmatic increases or changes, we'll be happy to discuss the impact of any proposed clawbacks or changes. That's what staff is prepared to do. But coming with cuts to programs that we believe are resourced at a level that will meet the objective, I did not want to ask department heads to then get in a room and fight it out.
Councilmember Kurtz, then Mayor Pro Tem.
So I guess in the vein of transparency, is that the kind of discussion that we're gonna have either on the 24th or on the 2nd, or on the 8th, where someone from the council is gonna ask for things to be cut? I just want to know how much I need to plan for the
That's
meeting
what I, that's
and what I
was-
need to be thinking about and looking at the budget in a different way, because it feels like we've gone all the way through it. And so if we're gonna go back and ask the staff to cut things, I want to be prepared to have those conversations, to be thinking about it. I don't want to be surprised if someone comes in on the 24th and says, I want to cut the COLAs, I want to cut, pick a topic. I want to be prepared with my answers. I want to be prepared with my own thoughts. I want to be prepared with my own investigation, my own questions for Kyle and city staff. So if anybody here is planning to propose cuts, please speak up.
Well, could we, we've done, you know, if we go way back to the mayor's budget questions, kind of a similar format. If there are proposals like that, get them to Kyle and Mark. And then we can get that distributed to the councils. We know kind of ahead of time what some of those questions are going to be, so you guys can have that and be prepared. That will help.
It does, but I think we need to be having open public meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that being able to say those things in front of each other and have that discussion is why we're all here. So I think that if there's going to be, if anybody's thinking about doing something like that, just tell us so that we're prepared. And so the city staff is prepared.
And I think that's where we're, because we have the 24th and the 2nd.
And I don't want to tell you how to prepare for the 24th. That's what we were expecting to occur on the 24th, is to have that in-depth conversation if there were proposed changes to the proposed budget.
Clarifying
Good.
question, but does that mean you'd like to know tonight what those are so you can be prepared on the 24th?
If, like I said, we're prepared to discuss the impact of making any changes to the proposed budget. If you want to let us know tonight or in advance, that gives us that much more opportunity to know exactly where to target those comments. But we're prepared right now to have discussions about the impact of any proposed changes, regardless of what they are.
Councilmember Dunn?
I just respect and value the response from the administrator regarding the viable basis of the budget. I believe further that the work and effort to put together a priority-based basis for the budget is reflected in the numbers that are provided. I believe that if there's a council member who wishes to then contest those priorities, that's what it should be based on. I would look for that in any consideration of trying to cut from the budget.
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
So, boy, I would love to be able to budget like this in my day job. I present a budget to my organization each and every year. And the very first questions I am asked are, what can we cut? What do we not need? Of course, my budget is always going to be the budget that I think is the most viable budget. That's the reason I put it together, was because I thought it was viable. But the responsibility of the board, i.e. the city council, is to try to figure out if we need to cut the budget, if we need to add more here, if we need to subtract over here. I really bristle at the notion that we should have had these conversations last week when we went over the budget, because we have to look at this thing in its entirety. And so when we're going through each individual category, I'm not necessarily going to say, oh, I want to add here or I want to subtract there, because I want to look at the entire budget. I want to hear from the city staff why we're doing certain things in certain areas, and I want to think about it. I don't want to make those decisions right then and there. And so, you know, part of the reason why I asked that question last week was because you all were the ones who put together the budget. You all know better than any of us what are the spots that maybe we could do without, or if you had to choose, which ones would you choose? I'm not necessarily saying that we're going to come back and say, cut this. But it sounds like what the argument is basically just saying, either tell us what you want us to cut or just cut across the board. And I don't want to be someone who comes in and just says, okay, I'm going to turn it back to you guys and say, cut 5% out and you figure out where. I want to have that. I want you guys to tell me that we shouldn't cut from this particular area because of this. We shouldn't cut from that area, or we might want to think about adding in another specific area. For instance, in the special events and professional services on page 76 in the community development, I believe it's community development. No, parks and maintenance, I'm sorry. We go from 86,000 last year to 260,000 this year. Now, I love a great fireworks show, but I would hope as a council, we would have a conversation about, do we really need to be spending $200,000 more on a fireworks and drone show? Is the budget, is that 200,000 sustainable in our grand scheme of things? No, it's probably a one-time expense. Okay, let's move on past that then. But it seems like we're basically saying, take it all or tell us what you want to cut without having any sort of impact or conversation about maybe we can push a little bit here or push a little bit there. And so that's what I'm kind of frustrated about, is that as is right now, if I had to vote on this budget today, I would vote no. Simply because I don't think it's appropriate for us as a city to be increasing spending 50% every 2 years. General fund spending. Now, maybe the rest of the council is okay with that. And we'll get to a point eventually where we're not going to be able to increase spending 50% every 2 years. I'm not comfortable with increasing spending 50% every 2 years. That's just me. Thank you.
Can we have a motion to extend, please?
So moved.
You,
I
Lynn.
move to extend the meeting to 9:15.
We have a second. Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're extended to 9:15. All right, well, I don't think we're going to make a lot of progress on this tonight. I think we come back on the 24th with proposals, questions, and have the further discussions. Councilmember.
Yeah, just to piggyback, and I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem did confirm my suspicion about the why he was asking that question last week, because my question would have been, and the reason why I didn't ask it last week is because I thought that was going to be sufficient, that you guys were going to come back and give us some options. And we obviously didn't have any time tonight to discuss those anyway, because as soon as we got into the budget, it was, hey, we got a couple more minutes, let's wrap this up. So my question would be, I would like to see at least for the additional 3% on the COLA, I would like to see the cost difference and the impact of dropping down to 2% and 1.5%. That's what I would like to see.
Is that a motion for information?
If it needs to be a motion, yes, so moved.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Just a second, let's back up here. That was really quick. That was even too quick for me. Can we back up on that? So we're suddenly making a motion tonight to cut the budget.
No. It was
It's for information.
It's for information, but it's a lot of,
right now.
so it's a lot of work, and I would like the consensus of the council for that ask before I send the staff off spending the time. So those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Can you repeat the motion?
So, well, I'll just explain the motion. Right now, the proposal across all the departments is that they're going to get a regular cost of living increase of 2.7%, but they've added an additional 3% on top of that. And to me, that seems arbitrary. We heard, again, to speak to Mayor Pro Tem, to insinuate that we didn't have conversations about this in the last meeting is incorrect. We did ask questions and we drilled down and we found some information, but not enough. And my hope was that we were going to get more information tonight. Instead, we were told, no, you tell us what you want to cut. And I'll reiterate, we're not the best ones to decide what's going to be cut. So I'd rather have you come back and tell me if we cut across the board 1% off of that additional 3%, or cut that in half down to 1.5%, what impact that's going to mean across the entire city through all the departments, or I'd like something a little bit more granular for you guys to go back and say, yeah, maybe in this department, I'm not necessarily saying to put them all in a room and have them fight it out. I mean, we're all one city, one team, right? Hopefully we can sit down and say, yeah, I was probably shooting for the moon on this little area, perhaps. So I could back that off a little bit. I don't necessarily think we need to go across the board an additional 3%. Perhaps in some departments we do, or perhaps we need to go a little bit more in some departments, and in others, maybe the increase is smaller. So I'd just like to see more options rather than take it or leave it. So the motion is effectively telling staff to come back and ask and show us what the impact, if we're gonna stay with that it's got to be 3% on top of the already the cost of living increase that they're getting. If we're going to stay at 3% and we come back as a council and say, nope, it's 2% or 1.5%, I want to see what the impact is going to be across the board, unless city staff would prefer to get together and say, maybe we don't want a cut of 1% or 1.5% across the board. Perhaps we can make some adjustments there rather than take a blanket cut, because right now we're getting a blanket increase. Hopefully that makes sense.
So I'll redo the vote. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I can't tell what Councilmember Kennedy, I didn't hear anything.
Please recite the motion again, please.
Okay, I'll try to paraphrase.
Yeah, go
If
ahead.
I may, and correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
great.
For staff to evaluate what a 1% versus 3% increase across the board in salaries would mean to the budget.
No, the motion is to drop it down to 2%. If we're going to do a blanket, drop it to 2% on top of the 2.7%. So we're really just talking about that extra 3% that's being added onto the COLA. So dropping that 3% to 2% or dropping it to 1.5%.
Okay. All right, so
And the question is, we're gonna ask staff to come back and give us their
The impact.
the
impact of that.
yes.
Very
And
good,
Mark said
thank you.
they're prepared to talk about the impact, so.
So yay or nay?
see it.
Yes.
Okay, so we can bring that back.
What was the vote?
4-2. 4 in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2.
4-2.
Linda, did you vote yes?
Okay. Yeah, 4-2. Got it.
Great.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
One more thing I'd like to have us discuss. Perhaps it's tonight, perhaps we could just do it next Monday. And I sent an email to Mark and Kyle, thank you. But I couldn't remember who I sent it to. Mark and Kyle about this. There is a process with the Washington State Auditor's Office that local governments can go through called the lean budgeting or the lean process, where it's a free service that the auditor provides, that they basically come in and will tell you about ways you can perhaps make your budget more lean or things you can do in the city to help improve city services. To my knowledge, and I believe this is still true, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, we have not done that as a city before. I know other cities across the state have done it. So either I'd like to have a discussion about asking city staff to do that next year, or at least, keep it on the agenda going forward so that we can talk more about it.
We're always looking for opportunities to improve processes and then by extension, be more economical with more effective with our resource allocation. So we'd be happy to look into that.
All right. That being said, can we move on to general business?
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business items 10A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
and H?
and H, sorry.
Forget the chief.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor of approving general business consent agenda items A through H, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. General business action items, skipping to D.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 11D, the STCU donation form for Signal Box Art Wraps.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Second from Councilmember Dunn. Any questions, comments, aside from a big thank you to STCU for continuing to fund our wraps? Anybody? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the STCU donation for the Signal Box Art Wraps, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0.
I need some help with this one potentially.
Okay, can somebody else make a motion on E, please?
I'll move to approve, item E.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second and discussion.
So just a real quick follow-up. So this is just basically implementing what the budget called for last year, Kyle, correct, when we approved the budget for this year. It's just moving the funds where it would come from.
Essentially, yeah. So we're recognizing that we're not going to pull from REIT or general fund, and we're going to instead use the tourism capital funds.
And so my two follow-up questions to that is this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this provides us more of an opportunity because I believe it was coming from REIT to use the 500,000 in REIT funds elsewhere.
Correct. For
For
existing
2026.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So the consequences of not doing this are,
We're deferring projects.
okay. And then I guess my third question is, how much does this leave behind in the tourism promotion capital fund?
It'll leave about 60,000.
Okay. And are we able to use the tourism capital fund for something like the 4th of July festivities or the city anniversary celebration next year?
Potentially. I don't want to say yes now. I want to reread the RCW to make sure that still holds for what maybe I would consider a community event.
Right.
Rather than a regional draw.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kennedy.
Kyle, I'm looking for clarification here. Some sort of satisfaction, seeing as how, my issue has always been, it's a enterprise fund. How will the entry look that the 500,000 is not actually coming out of revenue from Trail It? Will there be a footnote of some sort?
There does not need to be. We can include one if we would like to, but these funds for tourism capital are restricted to just those activities. So tourism related facilities that are provided essentially a regional draw, and I'm paraphrasing RCW there. We consistently have contributed, whether it's staff time, whether it's a direct contribution to golf operations from general fund and REIT or otherwise. That doesn't violate the enterprise, I guess, issue of golf operations.
Right.
So.
Well, as everybody is aware to some degree of how I am with the enterprise fund. And I find myself having to reiterate so many times that if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make money. There's an intrinsic value that is there. I think it's critical, again, that we understand exactly what it costs to maintain that facility and the restaurant. What it costs for future repairs, things of the sort here. Because if we know what those numbers are, or at least have some idea, there's an incentive for the council to make sure that we're doing everything we can to increase what? The revenue. Not hinder it by saying that, oh, everything is great, don't worry about it. We're actually hindering and taking away from the public their tax dollars. So once again, if we show we have A coming in, we're spending B, and it doesn't correlate because we're not taking for preventive maintenance and this type of stuff, let's show that. Because therefore, we can now start working on how do we make that more profitable? How do we make that more profitable? That to me is just simple business, and an enterprise fund has to be operated that way. And I'm amazed the pushback from elected officials.
So was there an ask or?
I didn't hear one.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Question, Colin, one of the responses to a question you'd gotten regarding REAP funds, the answer was defer the project. Could you explore that question and answer, please?
REIT 1 and REIT 2 are capital projects funds, so that we rely solely on that income stream to tackle large scale projects. And so we haven't really contemplated outside trailhead financing of any sort for capital projects. So we pay cash for those projects and we rely on building up the REIT 1 and 2 funds to levels that we can then tackle things on the CFP. And so as you see in this budget, we have several projects that are coming out of REIT 1 and 2 that are tackling items on our CFP. And so those are the intended use of those funds. And so that's what's contemplated in this budget as well. So.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Councilmember Kurtz first.
Well, I think it's in follow-up maybe to what Councilmember Dunn was asking about the REIT funds and what you said about deferring capital projects. I had a question about if we don't authorize this action item, what happens?
Nothing. I think there was significant discussion during the last budget review of how can we prioritize prepayment of the debt that we currently have. And so we had several discussions on, okay, if this, then this, if this, then this. And then ultimately the decision was to prepay with a combination of general fund and REIT. Since then, obviously, and you guys are aware, we're developing a 20-year capital facilities plan, and we brought back in March and April kind of that capital investment strategy for funding capital improvements over the next 20 years. And we see this gap, and we're looking to take advantage of potentially different sources of revenue to tackle those, while also understanding that we have a limited amount of reserve fund on hand, and we don't want to defer maintenance now for prepayment of our current debt.
Can I, yep. Okay.
Well, real quick before you do, can you make another motion to extend? 'Cause we have a couple public hearings, ordinances, and an executive session still.
I will.
Why don't you just make till 10 and then
I was
we leave
gonna-
early?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting until 10 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're extended to 10.
So if we don't authorize E tonight, is there a payment that's going to be made this year, a prepayment?
There will not be a prepayment. So what in the budget right now, we have the payment, or in the vouchers, we have the principal and the interest payment that's due December 1st. And that's just our regular amortization schedule payment. So there would not be any additional prepayment if we do not exercise this option.
Who was first?
He was.
So a point of clarification, then, because we approved the prepayment in this budget in 2025.
Yeah, so we approved the allocation. And so what was brought back at the last meeting was an alternate strategy that we now have all of these different projects coming on that we contemplate potentially deferring street projects if we proceed with
Correct.
the full $1 million payment.
Which is why we're talking about doing it out of the Tourism Capital
Correct.
Fund
Yeah.
as opposed to REIT.
Yeah.
So it's
But-
changing where the money's coming.
Exactly. So even if this fails, it basically then comes from REIT because that's what was approved in the budget.
So we would bring back that. And so.
Even though we
there
already
still
approved
needs
it?
to be, yeah, so you approve the allocation in the budget. You're not improving the payment itself. So we would need to bring that back for an action item
So
before the end of the
regardless,
year.
it's going to be paid. It's just a matter of where from.
Correct.
Right.
Yes,
That's the question.
correct.
That's not what I'm understanding from what
Well,
you're saying.
well, so this is a change in where it's coming from, and B, authorizing actually cutting the check is the action.
Yeah, so we
tonight.
need to bring it back for an action item to actually make the prepayment that was authorized in the 25 budget.
Yeah.
And
'cause
this,
we-
okay, okay, all right, thank you. And what you're saying is that if we don't do it out of the tourism capital funds, then it stays in the REIT fund, which means that it can't be used for
Correct.
That 500,000 can't be used for the new city hall
Correct.
or.
Yeah,
this
and I
project
think,
or that.
and I think my recommendation was leaning on the fact that we are optimistic as city staff and as golf operations that we can rely on golf operations to fund these payments going forward
Yeah.
and not rely on REIT or general fund in out years.
Councilmember
Yeah,
Simmons.
thank you. And I think just to clarify, because, you know, we get stuff on our agenda every week that shows, yes, this was approved in the budget process, but now we have to approve this specific expense. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but the actual prepayment amount that we agreed on last year was $1 million, 500,000 coming out of the general fund and 500 out of REIT.
That
Is
is
right?
correct.
That's
Yep.
correct. So I kind of look at this as a bit of a compromise, looking at the fact that, hey, we do have City Hall coming up. So we're essentially only making half of that payment, but taking it out of this tourism promotion capital fund. But I think I want to use this as another opportunity to say, as we talk about whether the budget is viable, whether we have enough funds to pay for a new city hall. We're already taking half of what we had originally agreed to do in our budget last year, taking half of that to set it aside because we do have some larger expenses coming up. And what I don't want to see happen over the next couple of years, as we continue to add, you know, the COLA and then another X amount, because it was alluded to that 3% was probably only half of what we anticipated to do. So perhaps next year's budget is going to see another 3% on top of the COLA. And so what I don't want to see happen, because Mayor Pro Tem Cargill alluded to this as well, you know, are we going to be able to sustain this over a period of time? And what I do not want to see happening, and I've heard hints of it, is that we're going to have to start funding different projects through debt mechanisms because we've bloated our operating costs to an extent that we can no longer afford to pay that with cash. So yes, we can pay for all this today. It is viable today, but my suspicion is over the next couple of years, we're going to hear the words debt come up to start funding different things that we can no longer pay cash. So yes, I think we're on the right track with regards to Councilmember Kennedy's comments regarding golf operations. I am actually very optimistic that for the first time, while being on this council and observing what's taking place over there, I'm very optimistic for the fact that they're able to now make the regular debt service payment. I'd like to see them be able to set aside additional funds for prepayment of that current debt on top of the regular payment. But I'd also like to see them have the capacity to set aside funds to replace that building in X number of years when it will need to be replaced. That's the prudent thing to do. And so I think golf operations is going to be able to do that. I think over the next couple of years, we've loaded them up with a brand new fleet. We've put the staff in place. I think we're putting we've got Chavalitas in there now. We're putting things in place. Again, I don't think we should be in the golf or restaurant business myself, but we're in it. And so I think we've got everything in place to allow them to be self-sustaining, right? Cost recovery. I like that. Right. But I just wanted to kind of use that as an opportunity to look down the road a little bit. If we're already saying, well, we shouldn't put $1 million towards the prepayment on Trailhead because we've got expenses coming up, well, then that should tell us we may not be in a position where we can continue to increase wages and bloat the operations to the extent that we now have to use debt as a mechanism to fund operations. Thank you.
And we can't. We cannot go into debt to fund operations, just for clarity.
Can in roundabout ways.
Okay, who was next? Councilmember Ball?
Bringing it all back home, back to E, we are discussing the prepayment out of this Tourism Promotion Capital Fund 116. That's what we're talking about, the bottom line, and we kind of got off, but there's no reason we can't do this. There's no reason we shouldn't do this. Since I was voted to be the commission of this travel tax advisory board, Kyle and I have had some conversations. Nobody wanted this money. Nobody asked for it. So It's sitting there. Why not use it? It's legal to use this to pay for that. So I'm gonna make a motion right now.
We already have a motion on the floor.
Oh, we do? Well, it went on for so long, I forgot. Okay.
I think we have Councilmember Kurtz.
Oh, so, okay, we're in discussion. All right. Well, anyway,
Go ahead,
that's it.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Let's just do it.
So my concern with just doing it, is that we've had how many meetings where we've talked about, even tonight, talked about how to fund projects. We got our 2026 sources of revenue. We got all the dim news about that we're going to have to raise revenue in order to meet our expenses, in order to do the things that are on our capital facilities plan for the next 15 years. In order to do all these projects, we need to figure out a way to fund them. And so what I'm having trouble with is that we currently are exploring ways to increase revenue. We talked about a public safety tax a couple of weeks ago. We've talked about a sidewalk tax, but yet we are making a discretionary expenditure of $500,000 when we have cash in the bank. We're taking that cash flow that we have that we want to save, and we're just going to pay something off early. I get the wanting to pay off interest early. I also understand that we have a prepayment penalty, so we are doing that too. But if we are so worried about whether we can approve a COLA or not, we shouldn't be spending in my opinion, we shouldn't be spending $500,000 and then later considering raising a tax or generating more revenue. We actually have the revenue that we've taken from citizens. They've given us through all the mechanisms. And I just don't believe that we should then go do that and then ask them for more later. So I think I cannot tell you how many times I've heard we need to have cash in the bank to pay for things and to plan for stuff. And to take that cash and then not be able to do those things, it's counterintuitive to me. So I think the prepayment would be very useful if we had a lot of money and we had a plan for all these things that we have a plan for, but we don't. And I keep hearing in the community that we don't want taxes, we don't want to raise taxes, but if we don't have the money to pay for the things in the plan, what are we going to do? We're going to use one of these things, one of these levers that we were told about, to then gather more revenue. And so it just feels counterintuitive to me to prepay something that we don't have to do. We've talked about needs versus wants. This is not a need. It is a want. We want to pay off Trailhead early, but we need to maintain our streets and have a certain level of service. We need to pay for public safety. I think those are things we can agree on. So I will not vote in favor of E.
Okay, so just circle back, give me just a second, you guys. So I think things have gotten very confused here. Okay. Our action is to authorize, say we all, this assumption, say we all agree to make a $500,000 payment. This is saying where it would be coming from, simply.
Correct.
It's taking $500,000 out of a capital fund that was already funded with money in it that has a very limited use. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wanted to boil it back down for everybody. So the money's there, the money can only be used for certain specific things. It cannot go into the general fund to be used for anything, unlike some other funds. This is a specific fund that has been paid for through lodging taxes. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right.
And so the recommendation I think from staff is that, so general fund and REIT fund, there's broader allowable uses in those funds to tackle capital projects and just other expenses in general. This one, to the mayor's point, is very narrowly construed on allowable use.
Mayor. So keep in mind that statutory restrictions on this fund prohibit many uses. You can't take this money out and say, let's go fix a street. So on and so forth. There's a number of things. So the premise is using these funds to make the prepayment because it is an allowable use as a prepayment, and keep funds elsewhere that you may be able to do capital projects or things that you've raised as options. Because if you went the other way and used those other funds to make the prepayment, you wouldn't be able to come back to this particular fund and the tourism fund and make those payments elsewhere because of the statutory restrictions.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Real quick follow-up, Kyle. When we were talking about this last year, and to Jed's point, when we were talking about $100,000 prepayment, what that was going to save the city in interest. Can you remind us what that was?
So I can tell you $500,000.
And what the 500,000 would be?
So
That's what originally it
it's a
was.
snowball effect. And so the initial one would save us about $30,000. And then each prepayment after that, because you're tackling the last payment in the cycle first.
Right.
And that's obviously that's the amortization process, is that you're paying the least towards interest at the back end.
Right.
And that's what the prepayments go to. So the idea is that you have this snowball effect working kind of in reverse, that you're then tackling as you take 5 or 10 years off of those payments. That 10th year payment, you're saving, $150,000 in interest potentially.
Can you say that again?
$150,000 potentially.
$150,000 in interest potentially that we're saving by approving a prepayment out of a fund that we can basically not spend on very many things. We're going to save the city $150,000. This is a no-brainer to me.
All right, we have we haven't heard from Councilmember Kennedy recently, then we'll go to.
I was simply going to call for the question and ask it to be a roll call vote.
Okay, remind me, we haven't had a call for a question. That takes a vote.
Motion.
Yep.
Vote on the call.
Yep. Those in favor of moving to vote, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, okay, that's unanimous. All right, so we'll move to a vote. Those in favor of making the payment, the $500,000 payment for Trailhead out of the Tourism Promotion Fund.
It was a roll call vote.
We just did. Oh,
That was
Roll call
that was
on the actual.
oh, yeah, but I gotta read what we're voting on
That's okay.
first. It's getting late. I think we're all going a little
Yep.
cuckoo here. All right, those in favor of authorizing taking the $500,000 prepayment from Trailhead out of the Tourism Promotion Capital Fund 116, please say aye and I will go around. Let's just go ahead. Yes, say that. We'll just go around. Councilmember Kurtz, yay or nay?
Nay.
Okay, Councilmember Wall, yay or nay?
Yay.
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 Aye.
Yay.
Okay, vote passes 5-1. Okay, council comments. I'm gonna give the evil eye here.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the comments I was cut off from making. Thanks, Councilman Kennedy. No, all I wanted to say is the reason why we have the $500,000 additional, whether they're in tourism capital or REIT or general fund, is because we got a loan, right? So I've talked about this in the past. You go out, you've got cash in the bank, but you go get a loan, you're still looking at that cash in the bank thinking, I've got lots of money. But if we had paid cash for Trailhead, which we weren't able to do at that moment, but if we had, we wouldn't have all that money sitting in the bank, and we wouldn't have all these things to talk about spending it on because we would have paid cash up front. So just keep that in mind.
All right, no more council comments? Okay, public hearings and appeals, 2026 budget.
Just
Kyle.
a last opportunity for any public input, before we, advance our discussions. We have the first read obviously tonight. And further discussion on the 24th, and we'll I guess propose the final budget, adoption on December 8th, I think at this point.
Okay, so with that, I'll open up the public hearing on the 2026 budget. If there's anybody in chambers who would like to make a comment on we'll open it at 9:28. Anybody in chambers who'd like to make a comment on the budget, or anybody online? If there's anybody online, please send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature and we will call on you. And this comment is specific to the 2026 budget. We'll kind of watch Verizon time here as it clicks by. Not hearing any. Is there anybody online? Okay, who's going to win the clock race, my phone or my computer to get to 9? There we go, 9:29, both at the same time. We will close the public hearing at 9:29. Next, public hearing on Liberty Lake 2026 to 2031 capital facilities plan. Lisa.
Same thing. It's an opportunity for the public to have some comment. We do not have we do not have the ordinance tonight.
Right. So just pure public comment. So if anybody has a comment on the 2026 to 2031 capital facilities plan, please speak now. I gotta open it up at 9:29. Please speak now or forever hold your peace unless we get to other citizen comments and you want to speak then. Anybody online? Nope. Okay, we'll be flipping over here very shortly and we will officially close it at 9:30, give or take a few seconds. All right, public hearing is closed. All right, next we do not have any resolutions. We do have a second read ordinance, number 312, Rochelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 312, an ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, levying the regular property taxes for the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, Spokane County for the year commencing January 1st, 2026, to provide revenue for the provision of city services as set forth in the city budget.
Do we have a motion actually, I'll go to public comment first, since this is a second read ordinance. It is,
Yeah, it's gotta be done by then.
Oh, okay.
yeah. Anybody have a comment from the public on this ordinance, which would be, which, as it was proposed, to not make any change to the property taxes for 2026. Anybody public comment? Anybody online? All right, if not, I will go to the vote of the council. Those in
Mayor,
favor,
Mike.
yeah, go, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve
Thank you.
ordinance 312.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Councilmember Spencer. Discussion. Not hearing any. Those in favor of approving ordinance 312, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Next is a first read. Rochelle, you're up again.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 313, an ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, adopting a budget for the period of January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026, appropriating funds and establishing salary schedules for established positions.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have no emergency ordinances. We have introduction of upcoming agenda items. We kind of went through that for the
I
first.
have a question.
Yes,
Are we going to discuss the governance manual on the 24th?
that's what I was just gonna touch on. So
Okay.
what we had talked about earlier in the meeting was we will schedule the budget as the main topic for the 24th. If we get through that, we will have time to start tackling the governance
Okay.
manual.
Both will be listed though, correct?
Yes.
So we can talk about- okay.
Yes. And that will affect what December 2nd is, if anything, and so on and so forth. So I think that's it. We do have the pavement master plan in January along with the Spokane River Keeper. Is there anything else I'm missing for future workshops? I'm sure we'll start building the list back up even further at the beginning of the year. All right, okay. No, citizen comments. Is there anybody in chambers who'd like to make citizen comment? If not, then I won't go through everything. Anybody online? Nope, okay. We do have an executive session. So we have executive session per RCW 42.30.1101C regarding real estate transactions. There will be no action taken during this meeting, and when we come out, we will adjourn. So we expect we will be out by, what, 9:40?
How about?
I'm gonna say 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
9:53.
9:53. We'll take a couple minutes to transition and we'll come back and adjourn when we're finished.
The mayor has requested an additional 5 minutes. We will return at 9:59.